fantastic. That's fine. Yeah.
I thought we were going to do more of that. Fan Four Stick.
Oh, that's a good one. My other one I've got is Fantastic Four, more like Fantastic Corridor, because so much of the final act of the movie is just people walking down corridors.
Yeah. Oh man, we're trying to construct a film out of offcuts of Fantastic. Is there any leftover from World War Z? The World War Z reshoots with the corridor scenes.
Yep. Just so many corridors. But if we just dress this one slightly differently and film it from a different angle, it looks like a different part of the building.
Fan Four Stick 4.
Yeah,
wow.
Fan 4, 2015's Josh Trank's Fantastic Four.
From the mind of Josh Trank. 50 minutes from the mind of Josh Trank.
And then the rest by the Studio 20th Century Fox. Yeah, this is we're now veering away from our DC world that we've been in previously and are now heading into a Marvel landscape. But before we get to the MCU starting in January, we thought, do you know what? I want to talk about Josh Trank's Fantastic Four. Not so much the film itself, but definitely the making of this film.
I want to talk about the film as well. I mean, they're inherently linked, aren't they?
Of course, yeah.
So this was a big... Do we want to go through where we were at the time? By the way,
Absolutely.
Ollie Davis, Luca, and DAD, welcome to Cutscene. Go over to Cutscene. Patreon.com/Cutscene. We'll have a full play-by-play review of Fan Four Stick 4 there, but this is probably going to be well over half the overall duration of that. And also there's the whole DCEU series, which we've covered, and before that, the bad Spider-Man movies.
Yes, the spin-off movies, we should say. The web of movies that they made, like Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter, Morbius. It's Morbin time.
Yep. And just to show where everything is, we're 13 episodes into this series.
So this is episode 14.
That's the leaderboard.
Here it currently stands. Look at that. Batman v Superman at the top. Black Adam, which was our last episode, getting in at number 10 on the list.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for any movie to unseat, like, the top 4.
I think so, yeah. Like, even with this one, I think this is probably going to end up being just below The Flash, maybe?
Yeah, well, the thing is, with this, it's fascinating. In all of the films we've covered so far, when the studio gets involved, it affects the entire movie. Mm-hmm. You know, Suicide Squad is a mess from the start to the end.
Absolutely, yeah. Justice League is a mess from the start to the end.
However, I don't think I've ever seen a film so clearly divided between, well, here's what the director made originally. It's 50 minutes long. And then there's a 1 year later card, and the rest is studio guff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's partly what Trank had filmed. And it should say as well, even the studio guff at the end is directed by Josh Trank. He was on set. And he is the sole director listed on there.
He was, restrained on set. I mean, we'll go through all the things. But yeah, should we talk about where we were, why this movie is so formative for us?
Yeah, because you and I, prior to us working here on Cutscene and before Wrestle Talk, we used to work for a movie website, and we were doing a lot, like particularly during that big superhero boom of the mid-2010s, following the success of the Avengers. And it was like you and I were doing a podcast, a weekly podcast, talking about all the goings-on with superhero movies and stuff. And that included all of this. And that really exploded then into 2016 before we started doing Wrestle Talk in 2017.
Well, I started doing Wrestle Talk at the start of 2016.
That's right, yeah. But we were doing a lot of this in 2015 as well. So you and I were across the disaster that was Fantastic Four. I'm sort of part of the lore of Fantastic Four in a way.
Fantastic lore?
The fantastic lore.
What did you just say? What word did you just use to describe?
Say it again.
I'm Ben Grimm. I always say fantastic. It's totally fitting in my New York rough character.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
This is fantastic. This is fabulous. Up until this point, Ben Grimm has just been, oi, I'm a New York...
Reed, help me, Reed. He had one line of dialogue. He's like, can we just loop this over and over again?
Why has no one ever cast The Rock as the Thing?
So, yeah, you and I were across a lot of this when the film, like, got filmed, they had been announced, and then it was gone into production, and then it was just silence. And it was in 2015, and you and I were like, there's no trailer for this movie. Why is Fox are just not talking about this whatsoever?
This was an era when trailers were released about 2 years before it was that the movie actually got theatrically put out.
But here, it's months before release. There's no trailer. There's nothing. I think they've released one promotional photo for it. And then all of a sudden, a trailer comes out, and I was like, yeah, that looks, it's exactly what I expected it to look like. And then in the week a week before its release, particularly the day before its release, Josh Trank puts out that tweet where he's like, this film sucks. And then all of these articles come out from The Hollywood Reporter, from Entertainment Weekly, from Variety. There's all of this stuff about what an absolute car crash of a production it was.
And Josh Trank didn't even have the sort of, etiquette to then say, sorry, my account was hacked.
He did delete the tweets.
I agree with everything that it was said, but it was not me who wrote that tweet.
Yeah, he did delete it, but and he then effectively got put in movie jail for a little bit.
For a little bit?
Well, yeah, he came out of the woodwork. He did Capone with Tom Hardy a couple of years back.
Yeah, everyone's heard of that film.
I think it was straight to streaming. Yeah. He sort of got that's the third film he's made. It's Chronicle, Fantastic Four, and then 8 years later, he made Capone with Tom Hardy.
Yeah, but because this is a really interesting bad film for us, because it kind of, I see parallels in how I became a more annoying wrestling fan. I would say up until 2013, maybe 2014, I was a wrestling fan who watched the product. And I mostly watched the product, and my debate and chat with friends would be around, yeah, but they could do this with this storyline. Why don't they turn Roman heel? Blah, blah, blah. All that sort of stuff. But then something happens in 2013 where the product's so bad on TV, you start to read up about, there's some backstage fights, and there's these people don't like each other. Shoot interviews. That becomes more interesting than the actual product the company's putting out. Mm-hmm. Fantastic Four is when I can remember going from, oh, cool, they should do this with the Avengers, or, yeah, X-Men, they should make it this way, or I didn't like Dark Phoenix. Nothing about the backstage machinations of how those movies got made. This was the movie that made me go, there's a whole world of gossip behind the scenes.
Interesting. It was this late for you. I thought this would have been earlier in your movie fandom.
No, I loved movies. Well, I was always more of the sort of academic theory-based side.
True, yeah.
I got my kicks from writing sort of Lacanian interpretations of Michael Haneke films.
Yeah, whereas I was
you were always...
I was always on this side of the fence. In terms
I've seen the light.
But with Fantastic Four, what I always found quite fascinating about it is how 20th Century Fox ended up making this movie in the first place. When you sort of not just as a company, but as a genre writ large, you've got this huge success of Avengers in 2012, and Marvel are now really at the forefront of this bright, bombastic comic book world. And those movies are doing gangbuster numbers, doing great numbers no matter what they put out. They could put out Guardians of the Galaxy with Z-list actors, and it will make a load of money. DC, on the other hand, put out Man of Steel, and it got hammered by critics and fans. Not all fans, obviously, because there are some of the Snyder Bros that absolutely love it. But a lot of fans were just it's dour, it's dark, it's depressing, it's boring. And then, so Fox are just well, we've got the Fantastic Four, we've got X-Men movies that we're currently doing, and those are sort of straddling the lines between the bombastic and the sort of dark, gritty realism that we're trying to get from the early 2000s that we did with the first X-Men movies. And so with Fantastic Four, they don't shoot for the middle. They just go so far in the Man of Steel direction, which is that's the one direction that is provably the worst option to go with.
Well, look, I know that there is an argument for if the big industry leader is going in one direction, you want to do the best you can to be in that same area, but not do what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So Fox might look at what Marvel are doing and having success with and go, superheroes are the genre in vogue right now. We will do superhero movies because we've got the rights to this IP, but we're not going to do the Marvel style. We're going to do the thing for the people who are sort of fatiguing of the Marvel style. We're going to go in a darker direction. Yeah, DC did that, but they did it bad. We can do it well because we've just had Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
We've just had... the Wolverine isn't a really remembered movie, but at the time, people liked the Wolverine in comparison to X-Men Origins, the Wolverine.
What was the third film they did? Last Stand.
Last Stand, yeah. Yeah, the Fox were, at this time, having a bit of a renaissance. Hey, people like Days of Future Past. Well, this is the next movie after that.
That's true, actually. I wouldn't say they were having...
First Class as well.
That I'll give you. They're having they're doing well with the X-Men franchise. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
So I will give you that. Which is why I think it's why I'm saying, like, I don't know why they didn't just go more down that route. Like, getting some of those people involved. Obviously, they've got Kinberg involved in this. I think at the end of the day, it kind of falls down on the hiring of Josh Trank and putting him in charge of this movie, which we'll get into in a little bit, because there's a variety of different looks of this movie. And one of the great things about doing it here, 10 years actually after the film has come out, is that not only have you got all of those historical pieces, Josh Trank did a really big interview with Polygon a couple of years ago while he was working on Capone, where he's reflecting upon his time on Fantastic Four. So we got a lot more from his side of things, and a lot more of like how he felt about comic book movies when he was hired on to make this. But really, the reason why this movie exists is because if Fox did not make it, the rights would revert back to Marvel.
Yeah, and
that is the only reason this film exists.
It's a count-out victory, isn't it? It's not the most noblest. We're doing this because we love the characters.
Nope.
We're doing this because the rights will legally lapse to the original IP holder.
If we do not make this movie, we cannot make another Fantastic Four movie. So, better to just put out a movie that we don't really like and no one else will really like, because it means that we've got another 7 years to just try again.
Which is like, if that really is the case, like, you just need to put out a movie, why would Fox care so much about the bits they didn't like about Trank's version?
Well, because you want to try and make some money. Like, you know, if you are just, you're not going to Roger Corman this.
Yeah.
And just, which is wild, isn't it? Of the 4 Fantastic movies, prior to First Steps, of the 4 Fantastic Four movies, half of them were made just to keep hold of the Fantastic Four license.
Yeah, because we got Corman's one in the 90s.
Yep. Just done so he can keep hold of the license.
Then there's the Tim Story ones.
Your favourite.
Good casting.
Yeah.
Chris Evans.
Yeah,
he's
a good
in
Human
Deadpool.
Torch.
Then, yeah, there's this one in 2015.
Yeah. Rise of the Silver Surfer, and then we get to that. So we're going to cover a lot of the history of how we got here. For me personally, watching this movie, this is the first time I have really seen... I can say I've really seen this movie. Because the first time I saw it was on a plane, and I fell asleep halfway through, and then when I woke up and I was like, oh, I need to finish the second half of that movie. So I had to try and find where I was using plane controls.
Oh.
Isn't the easiest thing to fast forward through a movie on a plane?
No.
So I don't think I got like the full best experience of watching this. But I came away being like, man, that's a film of 2 halves. You can smell the reshoots, and they stink of wig. They stink of Kate Mara's wig that she's very clearly wearing. And that was been my takeaway from the film, is that it's not great, and the second half is really rubbish. And
what, you think the first half is not great?
I don't know. I think the first half is not bad. I think the first half's pretty good. I think it's got some really neat ideas in there. It's not a good Fantastic Four movie. I think that I want to be very clear on that. Really bad Fantastic Four film, but a pretty good big budget version of Chronicle.
Yeah, that really is what it is. They have hired Josh Trank, whose debut feature that got him notoriety was Chronicle, and that was a spin on the superhero genre. A couple of kids get superpowers. It's all found footage mostly. They really take some liberties near the end there, but it shows how power can corrupt, and it's a beloved movie. It was excellent.
I really like it.
It's an excellent film written by Max Landis. Michael B. Jordan's in it, who's in this as well.
Yeah.
He was in The Wire before then, but that film and this film, and thank God Creed comes out shortly after Fan Four Stick.
Yeah.
Otherwise, maybe his career's dead for a couple of years as well.
Dane DeHaan, who go on to be Green Goblin.
Yeah, but he's a great actor. He's got a real captivating part about him. but he never went anywhere really. I know he was Green Goblin, but
Yeah.
he was Harry Osborn. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what was my point here about Trank and Fantastic? Oh, it was a film of two halves. Where was I going with this?
And I said, like, the first half is like, this is a big budget version of Chronicle.
It was a version of Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
I am not super into Fantastic Four, the source material.
Of course, you're not DC
I
boy.
think they're a bit dated.
Oh, yeah.
Marvel's first family, even when I was super into comics and getting monthlies in the early 2010s, that's Jonathan Hickman's era of FF and the whole Fantastic Four family, and you've got all the kids, and it's like, it's fun, but it just not my vibe. So if you're like, we're going to do Fantastic Four, we're not going to go the Marvel direction, we're going to do a body horror spin on it with some sci-fi elements, hello, Event Horizon, I'm like, yeah, sure, by the director of Chronicle. That sounds like a good idea. And I really do believe the first 50 minutes of this film, the setup, and then the actual body horror transformation scene is good. I would be interested, and it's a lot of setup. And if those things actually got paid off on in the second half, you could reevaluate this film.
Well, I think now, having watched the movie and gone through and done all my research, I think even if Josh Trank had made a third act for this movie, you wouldn't have that thought.
Right.
Because one of the things that is quite clear, particularly from that Polygon interview, is that Josh Trank loses interest in the Fantastic Four when they get the powers. He is only interested in these characters pre them getting powers. And then once they get the powers, he just loses all interest in them.
They're not that interesting characters. He's just got, the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
They're just kind of generic archetypes.
But,
here's the guy who races cars.
Yeah, apparently they're kids.
Yeah,
They are in their 30s, but they keep talking like, oh, your orphanage, you got all these children working for you. I'm like, that's Miles Teller.
Yeah.
Like, that's Michael.
It's 28-year-old Miles Teller.
Yeah, that's Kate Mara, who's previously been in House of Cards, where she's like doing stuff with the White House. Like, she's not a child. You keep telling me, which is why as well, I don't think that the age difference between young Reed, and then it's like 7 years later and he becomes Miles Teller. It's like 17 years later, maybe.
I think that's when he got his powers. Powers of rapid puberty.
So to cover some of the history, I would like to recommend friend of the show, Owen Likes Comics, because he did a video a little while back about Chris Columbus's Fantastic Four movie that never got made in the sort of like mid-90s to late 90s. So he covers a lot of like the Corman era and the Chris Columbus era into the Tim Story era as well. So
the definitive Tim Story era.
The definitive, as we now know, the best version of the Fantastic Four on screen.
They made Silver Surfer a woman, Luke. Get out of here, Disney, with your woke crap.
So yeah, very much recommend. We'll link to it in the video description down below. So go check out that video there to kind of get a bit more of that history, because we're going to be joining post Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. The main forecast for that movie, as well as Julian McMahon, who played Doom, had signed on to do 3 pictures.
For Tim Story's one.
Tim Story's one. They were all doing interviews about what they want to do for the third movie, like in the lead up to the second movie. Jessica Alba's like, I want to bring Franklin Richards into this. I want to do that storyline. The writer Don Payne was talking about Inhumans, Skrulls, the Negative Zone. Tim Story saying, like, I want to do Black Panther in the third movie. They're like exploring Ben and Alicia's relationship. All of these things.
You can just feel Kevin Feige seeing these interviews being like, I need to make Iron Man. I need to do my vision quick. No way are they going to get Black Panther. But would they even have the rights to Black Panther?
I can't remember who had it. I remember once doing a Venn diagram style thing of who owned what characters. And there was this weird tiny circle in the corner. It was like Universal still have the rights to the Incredible Hulk.
And Namor.
and Namor. But only the movie rights, the full character rights, which is how he's able to be within the MCU at the same time.
Quick recap. In the 90s, Marvel were in dire financial straits. To support themselves, they sold off the movie IP rights to their biggest characters, which was Spider-Man, Hulk, X-Men.
Yeah, and a part of that, which we're going to come on to in a little bit, a lot of it was in perpetuity. It's like you basically own them forever as long as you do X, Y, and Z.
Fantastic Four as well.
Yeah.
Which is that is a desperate deal because they're on the brink of bankruptcy.
I think Black Panther might have been in New Line when they purchased their rights, because they got a bunch of characters. They got
Black Adam. New Line produced Black Adam.
Because I think they got Deadpool, I'm pretty sure. I think New Line Cinemas picked that up. I think they might have also picked up Black Panther. But anyway, that's what Tim's story wanted to do.
But that's why the MCU, though, launched with, effectively, B-tier characters of Iron Man.
It's the only ones they had access to. But in the end, Rise of the Silver Surfer, released in 2007, did worse than the first movie, box office-wise.
Criminal.
And the idea of doing a sequel is that it does at least the equal to what your first movie did, but ideally better than what your first movie did. It is a safe bet to make a sequel to a successful movie for that reason. You're either going to make the same amount of money or make more money. And in the end, if it makes less money, then you're like, well, I guess it was a blip, it was a fluke. We're not going to make any more of those.
I got hammered watching that film in the Odeon in Putney. Snuck in a bottle of whiskey, me and Ketam and Dan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we loved it. We loved the film. We loved Michael Chiklis from The Shield anyway.
Yeah.
We used to have a Facebook fan group for Michael Chiklis.
No way.
Called Please Adopt Me, Vic Mackey. Vic Mackey was his character name in The Shield. The Shield, not the wrestling faction, the very good police procedural drama on TV.
Weird that we, as movie fans, used to have those. Because I have a Facebook group that's called the Corey Feldman Appreciation Society.
Really?
Yeah. And also one for Dean Stockwell from Quantum Leap.
Yeah, it's a bygone age of social media.
In 2009, Fox announced a reboot, with Variety reporting that Akiva Goldsmith will produce with a script written by Michael Green, who was a co-producer on Heroes and would go on to be the writer of Green Lantern.
Heroes, fantastic series at the time. Like, could have been something really special, like Lost level. There was a period where it was as hot as Lost, I would say. But Writer's Strike scuppered it.
Really scuppered
But
it.
one of the all-time great TV episodes is like the penultimate episode of that series, that first series. Great. But yeah, it's superhero. It's a real world depiction of a load of people suddenly getting superpowers.
Variety write, though Marvel Entertainment owns and finances properties like Iron Man and Thor, Fox controls Fantastic Four in perpetuity as long as it continues making the films. And they've got the rights to a few of those characters. They've got Fantastic Four, they've got the X-Men, Daredevil is with Fox as well, as is Deadpool, Silver Surfer, because that's kind of part within the Fantastic Four lore. Around this time, David Slade was doing a Daredevil movie, and it gets shelved around this time as well. And that movie getting shelved is what leads to Daredevil going back to Marvel.
And what made the Netflix series?
Yes, because they couldn't get another movie made in time, or another one get into the pipeline in time. So the rights just went back to Marvel, and Marvel made the Netflix series.
What a bizarre deal.
Well, do you know the theme park one? Which I find, I watched a YouTube video about this recently. It's so interesting. Universal Studios has Islands of Adventure in Florida. And it is a theme park area that is stuck in time, because the Islands of Adventure superhero bit is a deal signed with Marvel in the 90s, and they have the likeness rights to characters when they were in their 90s designs. If they change it, it's breaking the deal, and they will lose the rights to it. So if you go to Islands of Adventure, it looks like you've just walked back into 1999.
Which is quite trendy now.
Yeah, it is all of these Marvel characters they've got in their 1999 comic book designs. When they do like parades with characters, they have to be the comic book styles from that period of time. They cannot look like the MCU ones, because if they do, that's breaking the deal.
Wow.
And they own it in perpetuity. So if they just we're just going to keep it open because we own it forever and we don't want it to go back to Disney. And it's why Disney cannot do Marvel stuff called Marvel in their theme parks. So when they have their Avengers stuff, it has to be called Avengers Academy. It can't be called Marvel, because technically Universal Studios owns theme park rights to the Marvel logo, the Marvel franchise.
I bet Iger's got a whole team of hawk lawyers watching that theme park, being like, if you just make one single updated reference.
There's some bits that are there's bits of that park that are sun damaged, because it's just been there for so long and they can't update it. It's just frozen in time. However, there's a really fun loophole within there, is that they can do Marvel on the Disney cruises, because they're at sea and they're in international waters, which means they can do it. And so
anything goes.
Oh, it's a brilliant video because there's like land deals of where like it can be called Marvel over here, but not over here, Disney. It's brilliant. So anyway, they own it in perpetuity as long as they keep making these movies, which they didn't do for Daredevil, which is how Daredevil ended up back up at Marvel. I just want to point that out because that is quite key to how this movie gets made. It's also around the time that Disney were buying Marvel Entertainment as well. You know, they were trying to hoover up a lot of these things. I can't find Green's script. There's no evidence he actually wrote one. I would imagine that he did, but I can't find it anywhere online. So we jump ahead to 2012, and Variety report that Josh Trank has been hired to direct based on a script by Jeremy Slater. This would be Slater's first produced script, but he would go on to write things like Death Note, Godzilla, X-Kong, The New Empire, Mortal Kombat 2, Coyote vs. Acme, Moon Knight for Disney, and a really brilliant horror movie that I found was very underrated called Pet that I saw at Fright Fest a number of years back.
Should we just give people a sign of the times in 2012? So 2012 is the year after Thor.
Mm-hmm. This is the end of Phase 1 for Marvel because Avengers comes out in 2012.
X-Men First Class had come out the year before. And in 2012, it's the Avengers, it's the Amazing Spider-Man. So Sony, you're doing it wrong. DC, you're doing it wrong. But hey, 20th Century Fox is like, First Class we're back, baby. Mm-hmm. Then they make
Days of
Future Past. But yeah, Avengers comes out in 2012. But then it's and Dread. I'm just got my list here. Dark Knight Rises.
Love Dread.
But also Chronicle. Chronicle comes out in 2012, so they snap him up right away.
Yeah, this was one of those. We talked about this on a previous episode, actually. I can't remember. I think it might have been on the Flash episode. There was this period where if you were an indie filmmaker and you made a semi-successful movie, the first thing the studio do is just snap you up. Snap you up and put you onto a big budget movie. The idea being is that, like, hey, we're going to take a shot on you, kid, but really, it's because you'll just do what we tell you to do. And you won't bring too much of your vision to things. And in some cases, that works out quite well. And
Colin Trevorrow.
And some of those people kind of flourish within that system. Others really clash with that system because they want to have their vision on a movie. And that's not really what a studio wants, is for you to have a vision for a movie. They just want you to make what they want you to make. So what's happened with this film? So Trank had... Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say there's kind of precedent to that in the 60s. You get the new wave of American filmmakers who started off as indie filmmakers, people like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and Scorsese, and then the Hollywood system adopts them, and they are largely allowed to make their vision of commercial films with very high degrees of success. That seems to be, to me, what the Hollywood system is trying to do in the 2010s. It's like, we need this new wave of American filmmakers to be as great as we had in the 60s and 70s. But now you're also going against the industry demands of IP franchises.
Yeah, and Hollywood shareholders and this and the other.
Yeah, because if Josh Trank was in that 60s crew, he'd come into Hollywood and they'll be like, what film do you want to make? And they'll find out what it is. But now it's like, we want you to make this film. And I think fit within our playhouse.
I feel with Fox has always been a really interesting studio because it feels like they want to give directors their shot.
Yeah.
But the second that they get back what it is, they're like, whoa, this isn't what we were expecting. We need to make this a 4-quadrant friendly movie. And it's like, well, why didn't you just do that in the first place then? Why did you go through all of these hoops and everything to make a movie that ultimately you were never going to want to make? So like Chronicle is a great example of this because Josh Trank in this Polygon article was like, they didn't get it. Fox did not like the movie. They thought no one's going to like this movie. And it turned into a huge hit. And that's why they were like, oh, right, okay. Well, I guess you know more than we do. So tell us, here's a bunch of things you can do. And that's what they offer him, a bunch of stuff. He gets offered Shadow of the Colossus, which is based on the video game. He gets talks with Sony about doing a Venom movie, which I'll come on to a little bit.
Oh, that's actually quite a good fit.
Yeah.
That's probably a better fit for him considering what he did in Chronicle.
Yeah, so he gets offered, and that's what it happens. He just gets offered a bunch of IP-based things. This happens with a lot of people. It happened with, who's the lad who did District 9? Neil Blomkamp. How he gets onto Alien 5.
Yeah, and he was like, I want Alien. And they're like, yeah, sure, that won't cause any problems.
Well, I mean, it didn't until Ridley Scott came back. So, yeah, against all odds, Chronicle did really well. Just a little bit of context for this next bit I'm going to read from the Polygon article. Trank made a deal with his parents that if he was going to try and be a filmmaker, and if he's not successful by the time he's 27, which is how old Spielberg was when he made Jaws, he would quit being a filmmaker. So I have to give that as a context thing because it comes up in this. A 28-year-old Trank didn't know how to process hitting the home run. A press tour for Chronicle whisked him around the world and left him unsettled. The cigarette habit he'd picked up on the night shoots during the movie intensified. A 3-hour meeting with Tom Cruise was surreal in a bad way. Quote, all I felt was anger towards things, he said. Anger towards kids that I grew up with. I didn't feel any happiness for that. I didn't know how to embrace happiness, but I was having meetings with Margot Robbie and Emma Stone and Amber Heard. 2 weeks after Chronicle's release, Trank, who had, quote, beaten Spielberg, had felt adrift, punched through a wall in his house and cracked his hand on a steel beam. Trank had a problem, and he didn't know how to solve or who to ask for help to solve it. After the wall incident, he called the most notable director in his phone, Sin City and Alita Battle Angel director Robert Rodriguez, whom he'd met during the press tour for Chronicle. They weren't chummy, but Trank said Rodriguez still had a Yoda-esque talking through success, and with the young filmmaker sending him a box of self-help guides. Quote, I've always had a feeling in anything that I've ever done in any stage of my life as a post-18-year-old that I'm in hell, but I'm crawling out of it. I'm always on a path, crawling towards the light. The work, as always, was a way to cope without healing. In the maelstrom of post-Chronicle deal-making, Trank pitched Sony on a hard R Venom in the vein of The Mask. Over 2 weeks in New York...
The Mask? In
Yes.
the vein of The Mask?
Well, as in the original comic book, The Mask. Which is,
you know what? I've never read.
have you not? It's a horror book.
Is it really?
Yeah. And then when the film comes out, they make it the zany Jim Carrey comedy movie. But the original Mask is a horror story.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, it's really good. It's very gory, but it's awesome as well. Really,
Well,
really
I
good.
recommend the Jim Carrey movie. I think it's a masterpiece.
Genuinely brilliant. It's it's a masterpiece, if you will. Over the 2 weeks in New York, he and big fan director Rob Siegel worked on a treatment for the film, which Amazing Spider-Man producer Matt Tolmach hated. And that was the end of that. Quote, I didn't like how Matt Tolmach was coming at me in that situation, because it kind of felt authoritative, Trank said. Well, if you don't like what I'm doing, and you're telling me that I have to do something along the lines of what you want, and you're going to tell me it has to be this way, sorry, but I have other things I can be doing.
You can sort of see how this personality type might clash with a studio system.
Why I wanted to give a lot of these quotes up front, because it's going to make a lot of things that come later on make sense.
He seems very angry.
Oh, yeah.
And you know that I'm sure a lot of people have experienced it when they get some success. They're like, oh, but I don't feel happy. What? But then to go and punch a wall.
Mm-hmm. Because you don't know what to do with the success that you found.
How strong is this guy? How can you? I think I'm okay. I think I'm of average strength.
Mm-hmm.
If I punched a wall, I wouldn't punch through it to hit a steel beam.
We don't live in America, though. I don't know what their walls are like.
Just crepe paper and steel beams behind
It's all
them.
just drywall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm amazed that he could punch through a wall.
So he made a pitch for a Shadow of the Colossus movie, a game that he loves, but it had a pitch that he absolutely hated. Like, he didn't even believe in the pitch that he was giving. And I love this. He purposely did what he could do to stop Chronicle 2 getting made. So Max Landis was like, because he wrote, it's like, I'm going to do Chronicle 2.
Yeah.
He's like writing a script and everything. And he is trying to get this movie made.
Max Landis at this time, king of the geeks.
Yeah, almost like the second coming of Joss Whedon, in a way, prior to all the allegations coming out against him.
Yeah, so very Joss Whedon.
Very Joss Whedon. Chronicle 2 would have been about a young girl who's obsessed with the lead of the first movie and builds her own Iron Man-style suit. This is from Polygon. Trank described it as fine, and having, quote, nothing to do with why I wanted to do the first movie. When the sequel picked up steam, the director did everything he could do to stall the process. Quote, I made it difficult for them to set up meetings. I was dodgy about stuff. did a lot of shitty things, but I really didn't ever want to see Chronicle 2 happen. That was my worst nightmare. First of all, I'm not doing it. Second, if somebody else does it, then you know it's going to be a piece of shit.
Yeah, this is... it's difficult because, very highly creative people are not always difficult, but, sometimes the thing that makes them so genius and creative is also the same thing that makes them largely dickheads.
Yeah.
And it's just, as a professional outlet, how long would you put up with the dickheadness to get the creativeness? And this is, I don't know, in my head, he just got overwhelmed by the experience of the large Fantastic Four production and sort of crumbled there. But yeah, you're right. It seems like there is a bit of a sort of attitude issue that's just ingrained from him and his approach to work.
But I think it's both. I think that the overall, like the stress of a production of doing a big budget 10-pole movie did make him crumble. But I think that it was always going to crumble because of his attitude going into it, as opposed to it just being it overwhelmed him. It was inevitable.
Yeah, he's already got a mindset here of these liars are going to lie to me, know, that sort of thing. Well, it's adversarial.
In the Polygon article, he claims that he was given like creative freedom. Like he said that he had where is it here? He would have creative control on Fantastic Four, which I don't think he would have done. But I wonder if it's one of those things of like, we trust in your vision and we want you to make your movie.
Yeah.
And he read that as like, I've got carte blanche to do whatever I want. Because he, in his Polygon thing, was like, I told them I'm hiring Jeremy Slater to write this script, and they didn't know who he was. And I said, well, that's who we're getting. And they said, fine. Which hilariously, Zachary Stentz, who wrote X-Men First Class with Ashley Edward Miller, told Fat Man on Batman that they were originally hired to write the Fantastic Four script when Josh Trank came on. This is a quote that he has from that. We were supposed to be writing the script for him, but no one told him that we were doing it. So when he officially signed on, he was like, why are you imposing these other two writers on me? I want to use my own writer. I want to do my own script. He says of the script that they were writing. They were young, and how the Fantastic Four were almost the Fantastic Five, except for someone, a young man named Victor Von Doom, was just too damaged and fucked up to be part of the team. And again, it was a script I was very proud of. Josh Trank didn't want to do it.
Sounds very similar to what he ended up making, though. That's weird, isn't it? Because you'd think, as a filmmaker going into this, I get to work with the writers of First Class. Fox, I'm sure, like, well, these are the guys who were behind, Matthew Vaughn, being behind the resurgence of our superhero properties.
Which was really struggling post X-Men 2, because it's The Last Stand, it's X-Men Origins, the Magneto movies falling apart. They kind of had lost their way with the X-Men franchise until First Class brings it back.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's an immediately adversarial position. Is there anything in here where Josh Trank goes, yeah, and I heard them out?
Not often. And when I say that, not really a lot. Also, Stentz says in that Fat Man on Batman appearance that he then posted his Facebook page because he was quite angry about the way that Trank kind of treated them, that he hopes the Trank movie crashes and burns, forgetting that people who work at Fox and worked with the movie could see his Facebook page. And that did cost him some work at the studio.
Again, you just got to say, I didn't write it, I was hacked.
Another side note from that, this is actually a side note from this podcast, right, from this story we're doing here, but I wanted to read this because it kind of gives you a bit of a flavour of what Fox could have been in the mid-2010s, and they chose to go in a different direction. So Zachary Stentz is asked, did you have a project that you wish got made and didn't? And he said, when we were working with Fox and working on X-Men, we did a secret movie for them that essentially, I cannot tell you what the plot was, but I can tell you it used all of the Marvel characters that Fox had at the time in 2011. It used the X-Men, it used Fantastic Four, it used Daredevil, it used Deadpool. It was a really cool freaking script, and we almost had Paul Greengrass directing it.
Paul Greengrass of Bourne Identity fame.
Yeah. Which would have been a really cool, but he had another project to do instead.
Sorry, I think Doug Liman did the Bourne Identity. The subsequent Bourne films. Oh my God, because that was going to be my thing here. I think why not just have this Fantastic Four movie linked to the universe of the X-Men stuff that they are already getting off the ground.
We actually will come to that in a moment, actually, because that is something that is going to be part of the development process of this. But
it's what I told Simon Kinberg, my mate.
In 2011, Fox were considering doing their own little Civil War style movie and just having all of their properties clash. And I think, this is pre-Avengers in 2011. It's the year before the Avengers comes out. I know Avengers is very much in the zeitgeist of things. They did have the opportunity to go down that route.
Yeah.
So, this is from Polygon. Trank came to Slater with a skeleton idea. His Fantastic Four would be the opposite to every other franchise kickoff. Quote, the end of the Fantastic Four was going to be very organically set up the adventure and the weirdness and the fun. That would be the wish fulfillment of the sequel. But obviously, the sequel would be, okay, now we're superpowered forever, and it's weird and funny, and there's adventure lurking around every corner. But the first movie was going to basically be the filmic version of how I saw myself at the time, the metaphor of these characters crawling out of hell. Developing the script was a similar clamber. Slater was a badge-carrying nerd ready to convert comic book lore into bombastic CG-ready set pieces. Trank was the opposite, having only seen a few episodes of the 1990s Fantastic Four cartoon and having a general distaste for comic book movies. Quote, the first Avengers movie had recently come out and I kept saying, that should be our template. That's what audiences want to see, Slater said. And Josh fucking hated every second of it.
He hated the Avengers movie.
Yeah. Trank's quote here, the trials of developing Fantastic Four had everything to do with tone. You could take the most comic booky things as far as just names and faces and identities and backstories and synthesize that into tone. And the tone that Slater was interested in was not the tone that I had anything in common with.
Wow.
Yeah.
So sorry, I've gotten confused. Was Slater Trank's script writer?
Yeah.
So even the guy that Trank brought in said, no, I want to work with my guy, he also disagreed with him.
Yeah. So Slater says in this Polygon article...
But he also said... Trank does sound like a guy who's quite steeped in comic book knowledge with the Mask and Venom and stuff, or
he's not. He's not. He said that, I've got no interest. I don't read any of these comic books. I don't like comic book movies. There's no interest in doing these sorts of characters. But... there is something about comic book world of characters struggling with identity, getting something that kind of ruins their life a little bit, that I do identify with.
I mean, that is an important facet. That's the underlying, one of the underlying appeals of a superhero transformation story. You can see yourself. It's just a big metaphor for a puberty struggle, or you've got a new job. It's a transition point in life. So yes, that is good. But I do also think you need to. Yeah. He made Chronicle. What?
Yeah, but that's not a movie about superheroes. Like, that is a movie that's about people who are struggling and, like, power corrupting. And
but it is also absolutely a movie with superheroes.
But if you asked him, he would say it's not a comic book movie or a superhero movie. It is about teenagers who are struggling with X, Y, and Z.
That's a wanker response.
I know.
It's a superhero movie.
I agree.
Embrace it. So, but, like, what I'm trying to get to is Max Landis, of course, wrote that script. In my head, I assumed Max Landis and Trank, they're like, we both love superheroes. Here is our subversive take on But it sounds to me like Max Landis was doing that.
He did, yeah.
But Trank was, I'm a director. I'll direct your script.
Trank came in, much like he did with this, and the reason why they said, again, comes in with the... he took the skeleton idea to Max Landis, was... I want to do a found footage movie about people who get superhero powers. Then Max Landis kind of creates the lore of Chronicle and kind of creates the comic bookiness of it. But Trank just had the idea of doing a found footage movie about people who get superpowers.
So yeah, people who get superpowers is very different from comic book lore.
Exactly.
It's kind of more in the vein of Unbreakable.
Yeah, and like the Slater says in this Polygon article that Trank was really interested in Reed's early life, but the second he gets powers, loses all interest in it. And I've got a bit of a thing at the moment. We recently did like a Q&A session for our socials. Our social media manager asked us, like, what is your hot take? And my current hot take within movies is IP movies made by fans of IPs have made IP movies less interesting. 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie is way more of an interesting movie than the 2024, whatever it was, Super Mario Brothers movie. Because this one over here is made by people who don't give an F. And they've got no nostalgic attachment to the Mario Brothers thing. They've got no love for the franchise. So they just made a wacky movie. I get the point of the 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie is, it is a prequel to the game. The punchline of the movie is supposed to be, the two Japanese businessmen then say, we heard about your adventure, we would like to make a game. So the game is actually a translation of the movie, as opposed to the movie being an adaptation of the game.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a time when, because IP was less important and fandom wasn't such a big, like, early bit of marketing, where the IP was sort of the source material you'd riff on, as opposed to you'd faithfully adapt.
That's that. I think faithful adaptations have made adaptations more boring.
I don't know about boring, because they are better films and they make more money.
But they're not as interesting. And that's kind of what I more mean. So, like, with the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out a couple of years ago, like, that is just, you recognise that, you recognise that, you recognise that.
It's a solid movie.
It's a solid enough movie, but there's no heart to it.
Oh, I don't know. I choked up a bit at the end when one of the Italians is nearly done.
Like, there's no, like, heart or soul to the movie. It is just... It's key jangling.
Do you think there's heart and soul to the Super Mario Bros. Movie in the 90s?
Yeah, I think they've set out with a vision that is their own vision, and they have done that to the letter. And the other one I'll point to, and I at the time hated. This is like how I sort of like have changed as a fan of these sort of film stuff. Is the 1998 Godzilla movie. Like, Roland Emmerich, I used to hate that movie, and I still do hate that movie because it is a bad movie. I love it. I know you love it. It's a bad movie. It's not a very good movie. And as a fan of the Godzilla franchise, I hated it because Roland Emmerich is like, I don't like Godzilla movies. So as a fan on message boards, I was like, then why are you making a Godzilla movie? Why are they giving it to you, someone who hates this franchise? Now I look on it and being like, what an interesting take he's got on the Godzilla. He didn't really want to make a Godzilla movie, so he just made Jurassic Park 3.
And a disaster film.
And a disaster movie. That's a really... he had a vision, and that's an interesting take on it. I don't like that take, but it is at least more interesting than just sitting down with Gareth Edwards and being like, I really love this franchise. I really love these characters. And making Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is just a fine movie.
That's a bonkers film.
King of the Monsters?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's all over the place.
It's all, and that's it. And it's just like, it's all right.
But the first Godzilla movie was fantastic.
Yes,
and that was Gareth Edwards.
I do like that.
And that was a really intelligent spin on the
that was him
source
doing
material.
Yeah, I think so. And then when you get to the second one, it's like, just make a bombastic giant monster movie.
I think your issue is with sort of committee algorithm.
Oh, yes, there is that.
Making of films, not so much fans of the films becoming the directors of them.
I think maybe some of it is that. I think it's a combination of the two, because you're right. It is very much studios just want to play it safe and not make anything that colours too much outside of the lines in case of angering the fans. But also, I think it is. So there are some filmmakers who it's the inmates running the asylum. You don't get any mad takes on things anymore because they just want to make things that they as a fan would like. And also they don't want to also upset the fans. I'm not going to name names here, but I did an interview once with someone who had made a franchise movie, and I was going to do a quiz with them, and they wanted me to send them the questions ahead of time so they could get all of them right, because they had to, because they were like, I don't want the fans to think I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's very important for me as a director to be a fan of this franchise. Otherwise, the fans will not like the movie that I've made.
Yeah.
That, I think, is part of my IP fans making IP movies has made IP movies less interesting. But anyway, but that's kind of, at the same time, you get this. He's not a fan of this IP, and he's made a movie that me as a Fantastic Four fan was like, well, it's not a very good Fantastic Four movie.
But it is
interesting in a way. The first 50 minutes is interesting.
His headline idea, I'm not going to do the happy Marvel's First Family approach. I'm going to do a Cronenberg horror movie. Yeah. Which Trojan horses its way into, in with a sort of Spielbergian, here's some kids and it's a little sci-fi and it's cute. Oh, they've gotten drunk and they've gone to the negative zone. Whoopsie. Oh, no, wait, it's a horror film.
Yeah.
That's a good central premise.
It's not bad. So Polygon here said, the screenwriting pair would try and find common ground watching movies for inspiration. What was the Inception version of Fantastic Four? The Saving Private Ryan version? The Cronenberg body horror version? Once the team got its powers, that's where it started losing Trank. Galactus, Annihilus, Herbie the Robot, time travel, multiple dimensions, old team fighting young teams, everything was on the table, and any sequence or character could get tossed out at a moment's notice. Quote, "It didn't matter if they were fighting robots in Latveria or aliens in the negative zone or mole monsters in downtown Manhattan. Josh just did not give a shit." Josh is quoted here, "I feel like I got Mole Man. He's angry and undermined by the system."
Oh my God. This is the person we're dealing with. The guy who looks at Mole Man and relates most to Mole Man.
I mean, in fairness, he was my favourite thing in the first steps.
Yeah, but a very different portrayal of what Trank's seeing in him.
Slater wrote around 18 drafts of this Fantastic Four script. Only 2 of them were handed to Fox because, apparently, Trank wouldn't let Slater talk to Fox, wouldn't let Fox talk to Slater. He acted as a middleman, would not tell really either side what the other ones were saying. So Slater's handing him all of these scripts, and he's saying, yeah, I'm passing them to Fox, but he's not. He's only passed 2 of them across.
Yeah.
Fox are handing all of these notes back. He's not passing those notes then to Slater. Slater said he didn't see about 95% of the notes that Fox gave back on the scripts that he wrote.
This is the exact same behavior as the guy who's trying to hold up Chronicle 2 by delaying meetings.
Yeah.
So it's quite petty. I would not like to work with Josh Trank. I don't think this is a case of misunderstood genius.
No.
Like some people think for Zack Snyder, because by all accounts, great guy to work with. Mm-hmm. If you work with him, like it seems like you're his bro for life. And I respect that. But this is a guy who's his own worst enemy.
Devin Faraci of Birth Movies Death got a hold of Slater's script and posted what the script breakdown would have been. I couldn't find the script myself. So I've got this breakdown. This comes from a combination of Collider and what Birth Movies Death wrote, which I had to use the Wayback Machine to access because that episode's been taken down. Reed and Ben are friends from a young age, just like in the finished film. But the script emphasizes the fact that Ben acts as Reed's enforcer, which explains why Reed wants to bring him on the mission to the negative zone. Reed still goes to the Baxter building as part of a scholarship, but he meets and falls in love with Sue Storm. Victor also takes Reed around to parties, but secretly is feeding Reed's research to spies from his Latverian homelands. Sue and Johnny's father does not factor into this script. Instead, the school refuses to allow Reed and Victor to use the quantum gates so they go alone at night. There's also more stuff happening at the Baxter building. We meet Dr. Harvey Elder, who's creating artificial life in the biolab with Sue, the Moloids. Sue and Johnny stay behind and man the portal from Earth while Reed, Victor and Ben make the trip, with Reed promising Ben he can be the first human to step foot on the other side. Once they make it, Doom shoves Ben aside and ensures he's the first human to walk on this unknown planet. The negative zone, as it's called, isn't an empty wasteland. It's instead an alien civilization in ruins full of skeletons.
Oh, that's cool.
They stumble upon one living thing, Galactus.
Oh.
The villain shoots dark matter out of his hands, enveloping and seemingly killing Doom. The others barely make it the return trip home, but dark matter is shot into the quantum gate, transforming the quartet. At this point, the script is close to the film, as it hinges on the body horror aspects of the immediate aftermath before jumping ahead 4 years in time.
4 years?
After the time...
Do you think that was a Fox note? That's too long.
That's too long.
Let's do 1 year.
At this point, the script, after the time jump, Johnny is a reality TV show star. Sue is still working at the Baxter building doing research into cancer treatment, and Ben is a deadly asset for the military. Reed is hiding in Jakarta, blaming himself for the accident, but he's also built Herbie the robot and is trying to sell his fantastic car to Toyota. I only want to make that because there's a bit later on when, in the actual finished movie, where Johnny Storm's driving a car, and the guy says, like, what is this, a Toyota?
Yes, yeah. That's there's some bits of this I like. Mm-hmm. I particularly like the idea of Doom taking Reed round partying. That I can see that in Chronicle. You know, that's a sort of I'm getting popular growing up, going to parties. I love the idea of the ancient civilization, but they're all dead.
Yeah,
that's appealing to my ancient civilization. Aliens were secretly the Stargate pyramid builders' heart. But yeah, the 4 years later, I like Johnny being a reality TV star.
Yeah.
The rest of the stuff is quite similar to what we actually get. Yeah.
This is where it's going to take a bit of a very left. If Josh Trank's version is going over this way, this one's going over this way.
So this is one of the 2 scripts that made it through.
Yes.
Right.
In Latveria, the spies have completed their own quantum gate, but it heralds the arrival of Victor Von Doom made entirely of dark matter. He subsequently takes over the country and begins a reign of terror.
If he's made entirely of dark matter, I imagine, aesthetically, his dark matter form will be contained within the metal body of Doom.
Maybe. Back in the US, Sue and Ben meet for pizza. Ben's hiding in a trench coat and a fedora, and he's telling Sue that he's basically made peace with him being a monster. What he hates is that Reed abandoned him. Sue, it turns out, has been staying at the Baxter building because she's been working to find a cure for Ben using her cancer research, but it's not working. In Indonesia, Reed is attacked by thugs armed with futuristic weapons based on his own designs. He understands that this has to be Victor, and he somehow survived and is after his old friends. He tries to call Sue to warn the others, but can't get her on the phone, so he whips out the Fantastic Car prototype, loads up Herbie, and begins a flight across the ocean. At the same time, the thugs, called shock troopers in the script, assault the Baxter building. Johnny happens to be there with a camera crew because he's trying to get Sue to join him on his show to spike ratings. In the chaos that ensues, Dr. Elder gets moloid juice on him to transform him into Mole Man, while the shock troopers inject the moloid with dark matter. One of the big action sequences is the Fantastic Four battling the giant moloid in New York City, with humorous beats such as Ben being swallowed by the creature.
And you could probably get the front cover of the first Fantastic Four
flying around, exactly, which they do in they recreate in First Steps as well. The rest of the script has the team coming together to go to Latveria, now the center of an international incident because Victor has built a giant dark energy cannon. He intends to use it to destroy Galactus. It seems that Victor's only chance at survival in the negative zone was to act as Galactus' herald and help him find a new world to eat, Earth. But Von Doom intends to destroy the Destroyer before that can happen.
Oh, I like that. That's a good, more faithful version of Doom.
It's very Doom.
He's got that anti-hero side to him.
Yeah. The team use their powers in more ways in this script, with Sue especially getting a lot more to do. She helps Reed escape from the government captivity after the Moloid battle, and she's able to create a force shield that reduces wind resistance on the Fantastic Car and allows it to reach incredible speeds. Reed uses his powers to become a living airbag in a crash and survives a grenade attack, and in the end, his biggest contribution to the final fight is Herbie. The final battle is in Latveria, and it's revealed that the shape-shifting Doom there is actually a Doombot. Victor is actually physically attached to the planet in the negative zone and has sent tendrils of his being to Earth. The film ends with him trapped in the negative zone, the Fantastic Four telling the government Galactus is coming and are reinstalling the Baxter building as their home base and a school for smart kids who can help defeat the coming menace of Galactus.
Yep. Every time you think you've defeated Doom, it's usually a Doombot.
Yep.
And the real Doom is somewhere else, cackling away.
Devin writes of the script. The script clocks in at 121 pages, and it's definitely dense.
Yes, that did sound like a lot.
Yeah. Like I said, it could be a little too packed, and stuff like the origin of Mole Man is rushed. Although the presence of the Moloid battle in the second act is really welcome, especially when compared to the largely action-free finished film. It's clear that the biggest problem with this script, for Fox, was that it was going to be expensive. There are not many scenes that take place inside hallways. The Latveria battle is huge and rages on for pages and pages. Fox wanted to bring this movie in cheap, and as a result, they cut essentially everything after the team get their powers and then rush to a conclusion. Josh Trank's vision for the story seems to be different from what Slater wrote. This isn't the darker, more grounded take on the material by any stretch of the imagination. This script took its cues from the Ultimate Fantastic Four, but by the end of the script is more of a big, brash Stan Lee, Jack Kirby action. It's the kind of script you could imagine Marvel Studios making.
Yes, yeah. You can't you? Down to the sort of, pretty okay references to the source material. Herbie, the Fantastic Car.
Yeah. So Slater is only on the project for about 6 months, and he leaves. He told Comic Book Movie in June 2025 that it was a tonal thing. He wanted it to be the Avengers, whereas Josh Trank wanted it to be Batman Begins.
But Josh Trank wanted Slater. That's his guy.
Yeah. And Slater keeps saying, look, audiences love the Avengers. The box office numbers don't lie. We can do something similar to this, but Trank just had no interest in doing any of that sort of thing. Matthew Vaughn signs on to produce with your friend and mine, friend of the show, always crops up, Seth Grahame-Smith being hired to rewrite Slater's script, and as is usual with Seth Grahame-Smith with Seth Grahame-Smith's scripts, it doesn't go very far.
Yeah.
And he's not on the project for very long. He's hired in February 2013, and by October is replaced by Simon Kinberg, who is quoted in the Hollywood Reporter. Sources say Kinberg may be overhauling the script substantially.
Yeah, so Kinberg, he was the OG
Your friend.
producer, my friend. I did one 10-minute junket with him, but we got on well, and we went over time, and he seemed to be having a welcome reprieve to all the other junkets who are asking him much more difficult questions. I was just like, are you going to put Fantastic Four in the X-Men? He's like, I'd love to. Thanks for asking me.
You and I did the podcast shortly thereafter, and you were like, they should just give him the keys to the X-Men.
He is the Feige to the X-Men. But he was the producer, right, of X-Men Last Stand? Or he was the writer?
Yeah. Might have been a writer on it. He's certainly involved in the X-Men franchise from a producing standpoint and a writer, because he's, I think he might write Apocalypse.
Yeah, you know what? Because those formative experiences are sort of shared with Feige, because Feige is also on those X-Men movies in some regard. So it's interesting to see how Feige went off one way and Kinberg stayed at Fox.
There's the Marvel Cinematic Universe book that came out, sort of like the chronicling the first the formative years across all the various phases. There's a really interesting story about Feige on that X-Men film, because Bryan Singer banned comic books on set. He didn't want anyone to be reading any of the source material. But Feige was like sneaking them in. He was sneaking them into people's dressing rooms to give, like, Halle Berry, here's what Storm's like, here's what Wolverine is like. And that then meant that the actors were going to Bryan Singer being like, why can't we do more things like this?
Yeah. So Kinberg, his career, he wrote X-Men Last Stand.
There you go.
Bad movie.
Bad movie.
But then he produces X-Men First Class. And then he does Days of Future Past in 2014. Produces and writes
He was
it.
a writer on that one.
And then, Fantastic Four is the next one. So he is sort of the main producer in Fox for the superhero properties.
One of the other producers on the movie was Mark Miller, who in an issue of SFX was asked if the Fantastic Four would cross over with the X-Men, and he said, without question, I think you have to see some of these guys showing up in each other's movies.
Mark Miller or Matthew Vaughn?
No, Mark Miller. Mark Miller is a producer.
Mark Miller, the comic book writer.
Yeah.
Mark Miller.
Simon Kinberg then told Screen Crush, well, it's complicated. Because none of the X-Men movies have acknowledged the notion of a sort of superhero team, and the Fantastic Four acquire powers. So for them to live in a world where mutants are prevalent is kind of complicated, because you're like, oh, you're just a mutant. What's so fantastic about you? And that's why they weren't doing any crossover stuff, because they couldn't figure out how to do superheroes and mutants in the same movie.
Blah, blah, blah. Multiverse. It seems so obvious now, and it's worked gangbusters at the box office.
Miller is also quoted in that SFX article. I have to read this one. For the new one, all they have to do is make it great. Oh, problem solved. Thanks, Mark.
Great, or maybe fan-forstic?
What did you say? It sounds so obvious, and it is. Sam Raimi gave us a great Spider-Man. Christopher Nolan gave us a great Batman. So a brilliant director is probably the most important thing for a great Fantastic Four. Tim Story was seen as an odd choice for Fantastic Four, but when you have a Josh Trank, you know you're in safe hands.
Oh, yeah. Safe hands from that one movie he made.
This is from Polygon. Kinberg and Trank worked well enough together, but as the beginning of the production crept closer and closer and closer, and a hard release date hovered over the entire operation, the project moved forward in a less than desirable fashion. The script didn't have a third act, and life was compounding the intensity of the situation for Trank. Quote, the only two weapons a movie has are its script and its director, a source close to the production told me, and this had neither. They have to make this movie now. If they don't, the rights are going to go back.
Of course.
So they have to do it now.
But he came on in 2012, and he's been working on this for a while, though, right?
Well, yeah, but it's like, it's like 2013, like 2014 period of time now, and they are going into production. They have to get it made by this date, otherwise we're going to lose the rights, and they don't have a third act for the movie.
Well, when you said Slater wrote 18 drafts, my first thought was, well, that would take ages.
6 months.
So it's going back and forth over, like, Trank is like, no, do it again. Mm-hmm. And also acting as a bottleneck between Slater and the studio, because I'm sure if Kinberg or, an adult in the room, let's say, was seeing this, they would be like, nope, let's get this done. Actually, you know what? We're taking over the script parts. You can be part of the creative process, Trank.
So it's from Polygon. Trank faced immense pressure as he worked on the script, storyboards, pre-visualized set pieces, and casting, and much of it was born from his own anxieties. The director came from behind with Chronicle and was suddenly in charge of something that everyone expected to be a huge success. Quote, that requires a degree of expertise that we often underestimate, one source close to the production said. Trank took bold swings where he could. In so doing, was the casting of Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm. Casting an African-American actor as a quite famously white character, which did create a huge amount of backlash online. Michael B. Jordan wrote a really lovely letter that was posted in Entertainment Weekly addressing the casting and stuff, being like, guys, get your head out your asses. Like, it's absolutely fine. Stan Lee has said that it's okay. So I don't know why you're complaining. Idris
Elba was an Asgardian. Get over it. He was good. He was very good.
But there is a little bit from this Polygon article when talking about that, the stresses that Trank was going through. I was getting threats on IMDb message boards saying they were going to shoot me, Trank said.
Don't read the message boards.
To find some level of ease, the director kept a loaded .38 special on his nightstand. I was so fucking paranoid during that shoot, said Trank. If someone came into my house, I would have ended their fucking life. When you're in a headspace where people want to get you, you think, I'm going to defend myself. Trank returned the gun after wrapping production.
I do think that's a bit of an overreaction. I know it's never nice, but, we've had people say similar things. But you do have to, treat it as what it is sometimes. Yeah, it is scary, but also, I mean, it's also not easy to own a gun over here.
No, it's not. No.
So maybe I would totally own a gun if I could.
So, the film's gone into production. The film's finished, and feels like we're getting pretty close to this release. And
where's the trailer?
And you and I, where's the trailer? Where's anything for this movie? And in January of 2015, I went to a press screening of Kingsman: The Secret Service. And a couple of days after that, then went to be part of a press junket for Kingsman: The Secret Service. I interviewed Mark Miller, who was lovely. Really nice guy, because he just wants to talk about comic books all the time. And I also spoke to Matthew Vaughn, the director of that movie, who was a producer on Fantastic Four. And I just thought, I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask him what's, where it's been quiet about Fantastic Four.
I will say as well, this wasn't a time where you asked people on the press junket about the other things that they're doing.
No, you're asking about these movies.
This is the genesis of the sort of awful kind of, not gonzo or gotcha journalism, but, in the next couple of years after this, that would become... you don't do junkets anymore. You play a game with them, or you try and get them to say something about a Star Wars movie or a superhero movie.
That is it. Whenever I was doing interviews around this time, that was the key. It was like, ask them about what superhero character they would like to play, because that can be a news headline the following day.
It was very much something me and you were very passionate about. Let's not just go to the junkets to do the movie's marketing for them,
which is what they want you to do.
It was no, this is a two-way street. We need something as well, so we're going to ask questions that then we can hopefully get stories out of.
Yeah, not I don't want salacious stories or anything like that.
Although that would be nice.
I want fun popcorn stories. I want to go and do an interview with with Taron Egerton and just be like, I want to play Mr. Fantastic. Great. That's fine, because it's probably never going to happen, but it's a fun little thing for you as a fan to sort of fantasy book this out way and the other.
I always think it was because we were wrestling fans and we were very experienced in the shoot interview world, that's what we would consume.
Yeah.
I feel like we were at the front of applying that shoot interview stuff to movie junkets.
Yeah. So I asked Matthew Vaughn, while he was on the press tour for the Kingsman, when are we going to see a trailer? And because I said, the marketing feels like it's been very quiet on this. Do you know when we're going to see a trailer? And he says, and he just looks at me, he's like, you're going to ask me about marketing with all of these people in this room, sort of talking to, his agents and things like that, and the people who are managing him. But then the quote he gave me was, I've seen the movie, it's good. I thought Chronicle was a fantastic movie, and Josh Trank has gone off and done his version of Fantastic Four. If you like Chronicle, then you'll like this. We're all backing Josh Trank's vision, and hopefully the world will like Josh Trank's vision.
Not exactly a huge vote of confidence.
No, it wasn't, but he did say, I've seen it and I like it. And he was the...
He said it's good.
He was the first person to have said, I've seen the movie publicly. And the second... Because I posted that up as an article, the following day, and it's the first time I've gone viral. It's one of the few times, actually, I've ever gone truly viral.
Apart from the STDs.
I've gone truly viral for like my film work because this was a quote that was circulated around. This was the first time someone involved in this movie is publicly talking about this movie in its year of release. It's like, whoa, someone's finally talking about it. And he's like, I've seen it and it's good. And I've seen it and it's good, and that was the big thing. If you like Chronicle, then you'll like this. It was quite a wild sort of 24 hours for us, really. It was fun. But now it is time for us to dive into the difficult production. So,
I mean, it's already been a little bit difficult.
Well,
this is the production phase, not pre-production.
That was pre-production.
Oh, it'll be fixed by now.
So, prior to all of these articles coming out, because this comes from like the Hollywood Reporter and Variety and Entertainment Weekly, prior to all that coming out, there was a lot of message board chat from friends of Josh Trank or friends of Josh Trank who were posting lots of things like, it is an absolute car crash, it's a shit show, Josh Trank's been fired, Josh Trank isn't showing up, Josh Trank's is unhappy, no one's enjoying themselves on this film. But it was written off as purely, it's unverifiable. That is just people posting on message boards. I could do that tomorrow and claim that I'm a friend of Josh Trank because you're posting it anonymously. But then once the article started to come out, people then sort of retroactively went back to those message boards like, oh, maybe there was some...
Let's verify these.
So on May 1st, Josh Trank was announced he's no longer working on his Star Wars movie, which we actually haven't talked about. That was the other big project he took on. He took on Fantastic Four and the Boba Fett movie for Star Wars. I think it was supposed to be Boba Fett anyway.
Because wasn't Kinberg also producing stuff over with Disney at this point?
Was writing the Josh Trank Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
So he was, and I'm pretty sure it was a Boba Fett movie, but either way, he was no longer working on his Star Wars movie. He announced, I have taken the personal decision to step away from this movie. The Hollywood Reporter. While director Josh Trank said Friday that he had, quote, made a personal decision, end quote, to leave the Star Wars universe, sources say report of the young director's unusual conduct during the making of Fox's upcoming Fantastic Four movie had raised alarm among Lucasfilm's executives that were entrusting him with the second Star Wars standalone movie. Trank, 30, had raised eyebrows in April when he didn't appear as scheduled at a Star Wars celebration in Anaheim. At the time, both Disney and the director cited illness as the cause, but multiple knowledgeable sources say the studio had asked the filmmaker not to attend while considering whether to proceed with him on the second spin-off in its planned series of films. Indeed, producers on Fantastic Four, set for release on August 7th, are said to have faced great challenges pulling the film together given behaviour described as one insider as erratic and at times very isolated. Trank did not offer clear direction, this person adds, saying, quote, if you got someone who can't answer questions or who isn't sure or is in hiding, that's not good. A Fox spokesman says the studio is, quote, very happy with the movie and we can't wait for audiences to see it, but acknowledges there was some definitely bumps in the road. Among those bumps, Trank had several small dogs who were left in a rented house in New Orleans while the film was shooting there. According to sources, as much as $100,000 worth of damage was done to the property. A source says the production considers any destruction of the property to be Trank's responsibility. According to sources, Trank was sometimes indecisive and uncommunicative. Producers Simon Kinberg and Hutch Parker had to step in to help pull the film together. Those sources stressed that Trank was on set and directing the film. Just over 3 months...
What about the dogs? Where were the dogs?
Well, that was actually a separate lawsuit that Fox handled separately to all of this and sort of like paid the guy off. Just over 3 months from opening, Fox's Fantastic Four had done reshoots. Three months from opening.
Yeah, I can believe that, having watched the film.
It was done from reshoots. These were complicated because stars Miles Teller, Kate Mara, and Michael B. Jordan had obligations on other films. The most recent round, which involved 3 days of reshoots at the end of April, had to take place on weekends because of Teller's work on Todd Phillips' Arms and the Dude. Parker and Kinberg are said to have been heavily involved in these reshoots, pulling them away from their duties on X-Men Apocalypse, which they're also producing.
That's why that film wasn't great.
It's Josh Trank's fault. This is Entertainment Weekly's writer. Trouble on set does not always make a bad movie. Steven Spielberg was nearly fired from Jaws. Francis Ford Coppola faced the same threat on The Godfather. No one says Trank is at that level, and he definitely didn't survive the way they did, or make a movie that anyone thinks is worth watching, a view apparently he shares. But it's possible to be a solid storyteller, crafting an ambitious film that is still run afoul of a studio, which may value quality and innovation, sure, but often prefers budgetary discipline and adherence to a proven formula. This is why filmmakers with a distinct vision like Shaun of the Dead's Edgar Wright and Selma's Ava DuVernay chose to step away from expensive studio tentpole comic book movies before having to endure the inevitable compromises that they bring. But since this article was initially published, several high sources from close to the Fantastic Four, spoken to indirectly or each other, have told Entertainment Weekly the rift on set was not about creative differences, but rather combative and abusive behaviour that Josh Trank demonstrated towards the crew, producer, studio, and even its stars. It's partly linked to Trank's personal dispute, involving accusations of deliberate damage done to a house he was renting, or as revenge over a dispute with the landlord.
So that's sort of the origin story of Trank's annoyance and frustrations on set.
It's partly linked to his personal disputes. It's not like that. It's not the origin story.
I think he does seem like a guy who's always ready to ignite.
I mean, he did punch a wall.
Yeah. Was it the dog? Did the dog punch the wall?
With sources say eventually manifested on set as hostility and frustration from Trank. Not all these news sources agree, however. Some who worked on the film say that Trank broke for sure, but was driven to breaking point by the studio, and that his clash was not with Kinberg, but Fox production president Emma Watts. According to several individuals who worked on the movie, the studio delayed casting and script approvals, slashed the budget by tens of millions from what was originally promised during the production phase, and tried to force last-minute script changes to the film just as principal photography was beginning. The list of producers, which includes not only Kinberg but former Fox production chief Hutch Parker and X-Men First Class filmmaker Matthew Vaughn, suggests the movie kept switching up managers and expectations in a bid to save something that was clearly floundering from early on. Fox executives desperately wanted to reboot Fantastic Four after indifferently received big versions in 2005-2007. There was uncertainty about who should star. Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm was set from the start, but the studio wanted a different actor than Miles Teller for Reed Richards. Trank won that battle, even though he later developed a mutually disdainful relationship with the actor.
I love that phrasing. Mutually disdainful.
Yeah. But Fox insisted that Kate Mara be given the role of Sue Storm, and Trank treated her badly as a result. Some say he was cruel, others say merely cold. No one says they got along.
Well, sometimes just make peace with the fact that okay, this is the hand I've been dealt.
It's not my choice.
I got Michael B. Jordan. They got Kate Mara.
I got Miles Teller.
Yeah. If he had more of a distinctive, creative vision where I can go, yeah, but that's the guy. That's why you got to trust him, because when he's allowed to do 100% of everything,
and that's why Kate Mara.
It's amazing.
Kate Mara cannot fit within that vision.
Yeah,
I understand why he's upset about that.
Does he say who he wants?
No, it doesn't come up. I don't think.
Jessica Alba.
Different sources say that Trank was indecisive. Others say the studio was hemming and hawing over its choices. Either way, the script was not finalized until late in pre-production and continued to change right through the reshoot, which stalled crew workers who were trying to build sets, make costumes, props, and prep the movie. This created confusion and stress from the get-go that often boiled over among department heads trying to put together pieces of a movie that was still in flux. There's no doubt, but the question is, who was at fault? Someone who worked on the movie insists to Entertainment Weekly that whatever frustrations and conflicts Trank faced from the studio, they were normal parts of the production of a tentpole movie with a budget north of $100 million. Some theorize Trank was a talented storyteller, but not nearly seasoned enough to make the studio to manage the studio concerns, which led to a loss in confidence from Watts and simmering tensions between Fox and the director that only escalated right up to the release day. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. Days before Fantastic Four opened, director Josh Trank sent an email to some members of the cast and crew to say he was proud of the film, which he wrote, quote, was better than 99% of the comic book movies ever made.
Oh, come on.
One cast member responded, I don't think so.
What, and by email? That's brilliant.
I don't know if it's by email or response to the Hollywood Reporters, when they sort of reached out to them.
Sure.
I don't think so, responded one cast member.
Reply all. I don't think so.
Yeah, probably Kate Mara. Or actually, Miles Teller, we'll find out later on. So the article then goes on to talk about there are other movies with troubled production histories, like, World War Z that had to do major reshoots in its third act. Born Identity, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They continue, in Trank's case, multiple sources associated with the project say the director did not produce material that would have opened the way to make a salvageable movie. And by several accounts, he resisted help. Quote, he holed up in a tent and cut himself off from everyone, says one high-level source. Literally, there was a tent on the Louisiana set. He built a black tent around his monitor, says a crew member. He was extremely withdrawn. Between setups, this person adds, he would go to his trailer and he wouldn't interact with anybody. Sources say Fox believed Sorry, do you want to add?
I was just going to say, again, that sounds quite similar to the meeting delay behavior and being the bottleneck between... It's trying to get some form of control. Like, I can control this area at the expense of being more of a collaborative.
Glad you mentioned that because you want to talk about control. Sources say that Fox believed in what one executive calls a grounded, gritty version of Fantastic Four that was almost the opposite of previous versions, and initially thought Trank could deliver that. Several sources say that Fox stood by Trank as he pushed a gloomy tone on young stars Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, Kate Mara, and Jamie Bell. Quote, during takes, he would tell cast members when to blink and when to breathe, one person says. He kept pushing them to make their performances as flat as possible.
Look, there is precedent to directing people in that way. Mm-hmm. David Fincher famously does like 100 takes, partially to get those responses. Who was the French director? Damn it, it's gone. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not Jacques Verrier, but it's someone like
the one who did Alien Resurrection.
Stop it. It's not Carl Aldo. But he had a whole method that was, you're going to do this again and again and again, so your delivery is as flat as possible, so the audience can project their reading of what's happening onto you. You are sort of a blank slate. Mm-hmm. But this is a commercial tentpole superhero film.
Yeah. We need you to emote.
Yeah.
A crew member acknowledges that Trank bears much of the fault for the film's problems, but also says the Fox studio should not escape blame. The movie was, quote, ill-conceived, made for the wrong reasons, and there was no vision behind the property, this person says. Say what you will about Marvel, but they have a vision.
Robert Bresson.
As Fox hurried to put the project into production before rights to the material reverted to Marvel, the studio was scrambling with multiple rewrites and delays in starting the film. They, quote, were afraid of losing the rights, so they pressed forward and didn't surround Trank with help or fire him. They buried their heads in the sand.
Okay, so a bit of accountability on both sides.
That's it.
I love how the IP deadline is actually a more interesting dramatic device than the Earth getting sucked into the Phantom Zone.
The big blue light.
Zone, negative zone.
Another source says the notion of firing Trank came up before the camera started to roll, but Fox put its faith in him because he directed the studio's 2012 found footage hero movie Chronicle, which grossed $127 million on a $12 million budget.
That is insane. I didn't actually know it was that successful. That's really strong.
Based on that, insiders say Fox executives thought they had found an in-house director, a young talent who could become another J.J. Abrams, and the studio was trying to shake off its reputation for micromanaging filmmakers, so executives were reluctant to interfere on Fantastic Four despite warnings of trouble. When the seriousness of the problems could no longer be ignored, says a key source on the project, it was too late to fire the director. Quote, how do you ask someone to take over half a movie shot by someone else? You either hire somebody desperate for work or you start over, write off pretty much the whole budget and lose the cast.
You get your
Ron Howard.
You get Ron Howard, or you get the guy who stepped into Rogue One.
Ron Howard?
Probably Ron Howard also. No, Ron Howard was Han Solo, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I can't remember anyone's names this morning.
Was that who did step in to finish Rogue One?
It was the Mission Impossible guy.
Yeah, Christopher McQuarrie.
Yeah.
As filming wound towards an unhappy close, the studio and producers Simon Kinberg and Hutch Parker engaged in a last-minute scramble to come up with an ending. With some of its cast not fully available at this point, and Kinberg juggling X-Men Apocalypse and Star Wars, a lot of material was shot with doubles, and the production moved to Los Angeles to film scenes with Teller against a green screen. Which you can tell.
In the forest.
The forest is so good! Everyone was like, this is so green. He is not there on set.
Me and Kieran were watching it in the office, and Kieran went, he's not there. Like, right away. If there was ever a better plug for patreon.com/cutscene, we will go through the green screen scenes.
I love it.
And the body doubles, there's a few of them.
There's
several scenes where people are talking and their mouths are making different sounds to the words I can hear.
It was chaos, says a crew member, adding that Trank was still in attendance but was, quote, neutralised by a committee, end quote. Another source says the studio pulled together, quote, a dream team, including a writer and World War Z veteran Drew Goddard, to rescue the movie.
Oh, Drew Goddard, later of the Batman fame.
Whether the final version...
No, sorry, Daredevil fame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whether the final version of the film is better or worse than what Trank put together is a matter of opinion, of course, but the consensus clearly is that neither was good. One central player on the film says the process of making big films often is messy, but in many cases, the studio can fight its way out of difficulties. A Fantastic Four crew member concurs, but says doesn't relieve the studio of any responsibility for what went wrong with the film. Quote, to me, it's a classic indictment of the entire system. Give Josh Trank a $20 million movie, groom him, but they don't make those movies anymore. Nobody should escape scrutiny on this one. Everyone should take a good look in the mirror, myself included. Even I probably did this movie for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, even 10 years ago, people were talking about how the disappearance of that mid-tier film was happening in the industry, where you either made, sort of what they consider a micro budget of 5-10 million, or there's IP films.
There's 120
there's
million.
No in between.
That's it. So, because these articles are coming out, Fox pushed Trank on the deny train, and he's doing loads of interviews with Kinberg as well. They were pushed out as like a duo to do interview.
You mean Kinberg was his minder?
To do an interview with the LA Times, where they were like to shut down all of these things and said, like, speaking alongside Kinberg, Trank adamantly pushed back against these allegations. None of those facts were true, and any of the facts that were true were spun in such a maliciously wrong way. The director strongly disputes charges that he was isolated and indecisive on the set of Fantastic Four. Quote, if you ask anybody by name who I've worked with, from Simon to Hutch or my crew or anyone else, they'd be like, we've been working really hard on this movie and we've had an excellent time working together. It's been a challenging movie, but for all the right reasons. Trank also denied reports that during the filming of Fantastic Four in New Orleans, his dogs had caused as much as $100,000 in damage. Please, it's crazy and it's not true, he said. I've 3 pugs and a little Boston Terrier. That's all I'm saying. They're fine. I've been living in another house for over a year now, and there's literally no problem. I love my landlord.
Honestly, it was my fist. I caused all the damage. It wasn't the dogs. I love that the dogs and the house is such a plot point in this.
As for the rumours that he was behind an angry defensive rant that surfaced last week on the anonymous internet bulletin board 4chan, Trank said that was simply a bizarre hoax someone perpetuated at his expense. Quote, everybody wanted to get out there and say Josh has lost his mind. It's just been an avalanche of things.
Do you have the 4chan post?
I do not. I tried to find it. I could not find it. Landis would jump to the defense of Trank in all of this, put out like a series of tweets talking about how great Chronicle was, basically. Entertainment Weekly here. Some who worked on the film say that Trank was driven to breaking point by the studio, which delayed casting and script approval, slashed the budget by tens of millions from what was originally promised, and tried to force last-minute change to the film just as principal photography was beginning. John Campion said on Movie Talk, days before production began, Fox came in and made him pull 3 main action sequences out of the film. I was also told...
So that's where they went. This film, for a superhero movie, remarkably has 1 action scene.
And it is over in 5 minutes. And it's just like, push him into the beam, Ben.
Yeah. None of us are here at the same time filming this.
I was also told the ending of the movie was not even Josh Trank's, that at some point they hijacked the editing bay from him to the point where the edit of the film was done without him. Yesterday, both Christian Harloff and I spoke with another source. This is a second source that confirmed everything we'd heard from my first source. Fox had essentially put out a film that was not the film they'd originally sat down to make. I made some calls to some friends of mine, filmmakers who'd been in business with Fox, and I just ran some of the facts by them and had been hearing and said, does any of this sound consistent with your experience with Fox? And they said, you have no idea. Wow. And then proceeded to tell me a lot more stuff. I feel confident enough that I've heard this from enough places, enough reputable places, to tell you this. The film that we saw in Fantastic Four was not the film they were supposed to make. It was not the film that Josh Trank made. This is from... So now, all of that stuff, right? Now we can get the Polygon Josh Trank going through and reflecting all of this. Quote, In a studio scenario, you're basically being surrounded by veterans who are going to do a hell of a job doing exactly what it is they're supposed to do, Trank said. Because it's not your movie. You didn't come up with it. You didn't create these characters. You didn't create this property. This guy was fucking nominated for Oscars. This guy made 20 movies with Robert Zemeckis. It's a fucking science fiction adventure movie. What the fuck do you need to tell them other than the direction of the arrangement between you and the studio? All Zemeckis production designers needs to do is whether or not this take is yes or no. Of course, that type of yes or no still needs a producer and studio approval. Quote, I was aware of the protocol, but I wasn't really asking. Fantastic Four was filmed over the summer of 2014. Trank did not recall receiving a complaint from the studio during the 72-day shoot, and refuted most of the tiny grievances that came out after the fact. Teller's I'm a movie star now approach to acting, which involved questioning even the most low-impact performance request, caught him off guard, but a tussle that, quote, nearly became physical, end quote, according to an Entertainment Weekly story from August 2015, was a moment of miscommunication between two Type A personalities. As for the Hollywood Reporter piece that suggested he built a black tent around his monitor and cut himself off from everyone, Trank says, that's a traditional video village, and sometimes you can't actually be out there standing next to a camera because it's on a dolly. But Trank's capacity for juggling the workload and his personal life was tense enough, and there was at least a momentary consideration over pulling the plug on the movie. Trank likened the eventual on-set correspondence with Fox then-President Emma Watt to reports out of a demilitarized zone in Korean Peninsula. There was never bad news per se, but the general feeling that war could erupt at any moment. The intensity existed, Trank said, and life had a way of exacerbating the situation. Early in production, Trank learned by the set that one of the dogs was at the vet after chewing up some vitamins. By the next morning, the dog had died, and the director had, quote, the most emotionally aggressive cry I've ever had in my life.
Not the dogs again. What a tragic end to the dog part of this tale.
Polygon. The first cut of Fantastic Four caught studio executives off guard. Trank said they told the director that the movie wasn't marketable romp that anyone had hoped for. It, quote, wasn't for fans, end quote. The morose tone would make people feel uncomfortable. It made them uncomfortable. That was the goal, Trank told me, at least for him.
Yeah, to do flat performances and make everyone uncomfortable. Take that, studio system!
On the Fantastic Four.
It sounds to me like it's kind of... what did he say? Uncomfortable! The uncomfortable!
Reshoots and pickups are standard for modern studio blockbusters, but for Fantastic Four, they were urgent. The movie didn't have an ending.
Well, so even in Trank's version that he shot,
they didn't have an ending.
It just didn't have an ending.
No. That's why I was saying
72 days.
That's why I was saying to you, when they had this idea of, like, you said, if they'd maybe let him do the second half of the movie, maybe you would have looked at it positively. I don't think we would have done. The film did not have an ending.
Well, I don't get how this slips through. So I know there's been a lot of people in this who have also said, well, yeah, Fox are also a nightmare to work with. And that's definitely a part of it. But yeah, they should have seen, where's the ending to this movie? What's Kinberg doing?
Well, my guess is, because they said they went into production without a third act. The film doesn't have an ending script form when they go in to shoot the movie. Now they're doing lots of reshoots. They're tinkering with the script, which is probably changing any planned ending that they might have. We'll do this. Well, now we need to change this. Well, that means we can't do this ending. And my guess would be, based on what like Jeremy Slater was saying, I don't think Trank wanted to do an action ending. I don't think he wanted to do an action scene.
I mean, I could see a movie based on, when they do the body horror transformation bit, that you have the rest of the film in a sort of Stranger Things style military experiment lab, and it's them trying to bond and talk together and escape.
Maybe, yeah.
And then maybe, the end, it's a reverse heist film. It's an escape
escape
the prison.
The base.
Yeah.
Where did we get to? The movie didn't have an ending. Trank claimed that before production took place, Fox slashed the budget by nearly $30 million and cut a majority of the spectacle-filled finale with the idea that one could be filmed in a second round of shooting. But changes to Fantastic Four would become more drastic, and a difficult scheduling process that involved bringing in actors on weekends and outfitting them with notable wigs made cobbling together a third-act set piece all the more difficult. According to Slater, most of the finished film turned out to be an expected version of his initial 40 pages, minus all of the superheroics. Much of the scramble to save Fantastic Four remained shrouded by NDAs and Trank's own lack of participation. Fox hired other writers to generate script pages to be shot during reshoots, though Trank had never met them. He wrote pages himself in hopes of putting his voice back into the film, and the pages were dutifully ignored. The director even confronted producers over Directors Guild union rights that were not being recognised, and the studio complied. Trank said he negotiated a new deal in which he would re-edit the movie, while Fox would work on its own cut, and then both of those versions would be shown to test audiences. The Suicide Squad story.
Yay, we like the one with all the music in. Oh, test audiences. So intelligent, aren't they?
Yeah, that's why we got the Daredevil movie that we've got, because the studio, the test audiences liked the romance stuff and didn't like all the boring lawyer stuff. The studio hired editor Stephen Rifkin, whose credited work includes Avatar and the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean movies, to prepare Fantastic Four for the runoff. Rifkin ultimately chose different takes for every single scene in the movie and became, quote, the de facto director, Trank said.
Really?
And in the director's mind, Rifkin chose the bad takes. Quote, there are some editors, from my point of view, who prefer using takes over pacing over performance. So they'll say, he moved out of that quicker, or he did this quicker. It's about a certain kind of rhythm that they're looking for. There are moments in the finished film that Trank appreciates. Dr. Doom blowing up security guards' heads as he strolls down a hallway, the scene in which Dr. Nelson's head explodes, the shriek-filled introduction of mutated Reed Richards, with no heads exploding. But the director found Rifkin's ultimate directions too cheesy. Quote, I maybe saw a couple of the shots that really resonated, end quote. Unfortunately for Trank, the 2 versions of Fantastic Four were never in a face-off. In January 2015, he realised, quote, there was no path out of hell, end quote, and the studio had already spent 3 months plus millions of dollars for planned rewrites and reshoots that would fit Rifkin's cut. A teaser trailer that month supposedly inspired new directions for the film, which was then out of Trank's hands. Quote, they really do pay attention to what they're saying on Twitter. They look at that and they say, shit, people are freaked out about how it's not going to be funny, so we need to spend $10 million to do a comedy rewrite. Trank edited his version anyway, hoping Vox would pluck some select scenes and drop them into Rifkin's cut. Maybe critics would see those moments and give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe. A sense of loss sank in during the reshoot. The contention left Trank defeated, and his new goal, to appease the producers, who might incorporate as many chunks of his personal cut into the finished product as possible, went against his artistic tenets. Quote, it felt like being castrated, he said, of being on set, and was overseen by Kinberg and Hutch Parker. Quote, you're standing there, and you're basically watching producers blocking out scenes 5 minutes ahead of when you get there, having editors hired by the studio deciding the sequence of shots that are going to be construct whatever is going on and what they need to be. And then, because you're being nice, you sort of be nice and go by saying... And then, because they know you're being nice, they'll sort of be nice to you by saying, well, does that sound good? And you can say yes or no. This time, Trank said yes. He wanted to keep his job. So they did the 2 cuts, but really they were never going to go. And I think that's kind of like the David Ayer one we talked about as well. Yeah. Sure, you can cut your movie, but we don't actually really want to do. We want to do this version over here. And in the end, it does sort of the combination of the 2.
But with Suicide Squad and Justice League, because Joss was only brought on very, very late, and they had, what was it, like 3 months of reshoots or something, and it was 6 months before the film came out. They're bad movies. They're right at the top of the worst movies ever for us.
Oh, Justice League's mid-table.
Is it?
Yeah, it's 7. It's below Morbius.
Fair. But they're basically functional movies. They're crap, but they're basically functional. Fantastic Four is that last bit is so much worse than the endings of the DC ones I just said. Yeah,
there's a quote that I haven't got from that Polygon article that I thought was really it's the most damning thing I'd read about Josh Trank. And I know this when I was doing my book a number of years back about Mortal Kombat 2. So when they did Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the producer's idea was, I can't get Paul Anderson back, so I'm just going to upgrade everyone from the position they were in to the next level up. So the director of photography became the director. The assistant director of photography became the director of photography. But then that film turned out to be a bad film because they had no one on set to be the veteran. You know, the name escapes me now, but the director, John R. Leonetti, who was the director of photography, then became the director, he was an experienced DOP. he's not an experienced director.
Yeah.
So if you don't have an experienced director, you need an experienced DOP to back you up.
Sure.
But if you've got an assistant DOP who's just become a director of photography who is not experienced doing that role, he also needs someone to be a veteran to kind of help him along. So they surrounded Trank, and Trank talks about it, with people who've worked on loads of movies. This guy's worked with Robert Zemeckis. This guy's been nominated for Oscars, but he wasn't listening to them, and he didn't really appreciate or respect the work that they'd done. And one of those people said to Polygon in there, it was like, he had one pretty good movie behind him, and that's not enough to try and get the command of respect that he wanted on set.
Yeah. And to take on Fantastic Four.
Yeah. So then, the day before the film came out, Josh Trank tweeted, "A year ago, I had a fantastic version of this."
What did you say?
"And it would have received great reviews. You'll probably never see it. That's the reality."
Oh, that's doing Snyder gaslighting before, or dog whistling rather, a whole year before Snyder did.
Yep. He deleted the tweet. Polygon's write-up of it. The tweet, as he sized up in retrospect, was spitting in the face of every person who attempted to make his version of Fantastic Four work. It offended his collaborators and silenced the friends he had in the industry. He went out swinging to defend a fantastic version of Fantastic Four, a version of the movie that no one, including Trank, can really say ever existed.
Yeah, and this is like, if you make a bad movie, film is an incredibly collaborative thing. You're working with hundreds of people, at least, on big ones like this. So when one of you goes out there and behaves like this, it's disrespectful.
It is, yeah.
Like, at least just keep your mouth shut for the 6 months it's gone through the theatrical release and it's had a couple of months on streaming. That's why I think it's Dakota Johnson, isn't it? The Madam Web star.
Sure was.
That's why we all sort of took against her. Because it's like, just shut up.
Yeah. Just
for at least 6 months.
Just do the press tour.
Yeah.
Don't say anything mad. Don't say anything controversial. Just say the nice things about the movie. And then in 5 years' time, then you can talk about it.
It's a request to be professional.
Yeah.
So I've got, I'm sure everyone has worked on bad films and had bad experiences who've also worked on Fantastic Four. But they were professional and they kept their mouth shut for at least that important period. So when Trank says that, I can see how he loses everyone and he burns every bridge.
So my guess is that his tweet is a response to the reviews have just come out. And so, 'cause the reviews come out and they're not good. Bearing in mind, Silver Surfer, Rise of the Silver Surfer, the reason why this movie exists and there was not a sequel to that movie is that movie did not do very well. At 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. Fantastic Four, Fan Stick, had 9%. So one of the lowest rated big tentpole movies ever made in this genre.
I thought you were going to say 19. I thought you went 9, and I thought a teen was coming.
Nope, 9%. And I think that's why he put that tweet out. Because I think it's him trying to defend, this is not my movie. I made a good movie. You'll never see it. That would have received great reviews, but you'll never see it. That's the reality.
Doesn't sound like he ever made that movie, though.
Well,
from everything you said, that there is no fantastic, what did you just say? Movie out there.
No, it doesn't exist. I also think, because of that tweet, that's why the Hollywood Reporter and Variety and Entertainment Weekly articles start to come out. I think it is Fox going on the defensive.
Yeah.
He's actually the problem here, folks. It's not, and then it's a joint thing. But all these bad stories come out about him. I think it's all linked together.
Look, Trank's tweet, regardless of whether he deleted it, that is a statement of public war against a much larger player.
You're not going to win that, man.
You're not going to win it. And he didn't, because Fox is still here, albeit with a different owner. Where's Trank? So, yeah, it was a stupid move. Oh, everyone remembers Capone. It was a stupid move by him. I'm not saying what Fox did or had done is right. I'm just, you're an adult. You should understand that this is an industry.
Toby Kebbell did an interview with the Daily Beast a number of years later where he said, "I tell you the honest truth, Trank did a great cut of that movie that you'll never see.
Oh.
It's a shame. Much darker version, you'll never see it." I think it's more a case of he had a vision as opposed to he did a cut of the movie.
He actually filmed it.
I mean, Trank said, "I did do a cut of the movie." Maybe he showed it to Toby Kebbell of here's the movie I would have made. Unfortunately, he continued, "I played Doom in 3 points. Walking down a corridor, killing the Doctor and getting into the time machine and laying on the bench. They were the only times I played Doom. Everything else was some other guy on some other day doing some other things. I was infuriated that he was allowed to limp like that.
Wait. So say the bits again. When he
Walking down the corridor.
Well, we get a lot of that.
I think it's the one where he walks and he starts like killing those people randomly.
Do you know there's the old Simpsons joke where they got the Roadrunner lady in?
Yeah. It's got meep.
She just did beep once and then they doubled it up in post, so they had to pay her for that. Do you think they just use that one shot again and again and again of the corridor bit?
So yeah, it's walking down the corridor, which is where I think he's killing all of those lab technicians.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that one. Killing the doctor and getting into the time machine. I think what he means there is killing Franklin Richard and getting into the pod, same to the negative zone, not a time machine. He doesn't know what this movie's about.
It's Black Atom all over again.
And the third one is when he's lying on the table with Harvey Elder.
Okay, yeah. Tim Blake Nelson in the film. Who's Mole Man?
He is Mole Man, Not anymore, he's Dead Man in this one.
Wow, so all the stuff
on the negative zone is
negative zone
not
is
Toby
not
Kebbell.
him.
What's interesting as well is that this Daily Beast article is about he's the greatest actor whose face you never see. Because obviously he did all the motion capture stuff on War of the Planet of the Apes. He was doing a lot of mocap work. And
he was like Andy Serkis's protege.
And even here, he's like just behind a mask the entire time. And it's not even him for a lot of it. It was just some other guy doing some other thing on some other day. This is it continues from there. In the version that made it to theatres, his Doom arrives to save his pals in the negative zone only to be left behind. His transformation lost in a flash forward that cuts jarringly to his new villainous self, gone space mad with his new powers. Quote, I missed the press tour for Planet of the Apes because I was lying under rubble, slowly rising out of the ashes to be Dr. Doom, and it never made it into the film. There are always frustration with these tentpoles, but it generally comes from the script changing, sadly enough. But I'm very proud of my work. I'm also just heartbroken as the fans are.
So the bits he did film, like he's saying he definitely filmed a bit where he tries to save his friends in the negative zone.
No, so he said that he goes to the negative zone with his friends, then he gets killed. Yeah. And then there is a flash forward sequence where you see him become Dr. Doom. They filmed the scene where he becomes, and he rises out of the rubble. Okay. But that's not within the film. Kate Mara said with Collider she had, quote, a horrible experience on Fantastic Four.
Do you know the romance that came out of this? Have you got that in there?
No.
So Kate Mara and Jamie Bell, who plays Ben Grimm, are married now with 2 kids.
Are they really?
Because they met while filming the 2015 movie. They fell in love during the press tour. They got engaged in January 2017, married in July 2017, 2 children together. And in an interview, she described that period as trauma bonding. Fantastic Four trauma bonded Jamie Bell and Kate Mara, and they're married and happily so to this day.
Trauma bonding.
It's quite nice in a way. At least something good came of it.
Miles Teller in an interview from November 13th, 2025. So only a couple of weeks ago as we're recording this. When I first saw the movie, I remember talking to one of the studio heads and saying, I think we're in trouble. Teller says in an interview on Cohen's Sirius XM talk show. Teller went on to explain the industry pressure he felt in his late 20s to take on a superhero film, a genre that he hasn't touched since. Quote, as a young actor at the time, it's like, all right, if you want to be taken seriously as a leading man, you've got to get on this superhero train. That was our chance, Teller said. And the casting, I thought, was spectacular. I love all those actors. It's unfortunate for that because so many people worked so hard on that movie, and honestly, maybe there was only one really important person that kind of fucked it all up.
I wonder who that could be.
Well, yeah, a lot of people.
Watts, head of the Fox studio division.
Or he could be talking about Trank, one really important people.
Especially because you referred to it earlier. Sounds like they almost had a physical fight. 2 Type A people. Miles Teller is an interesting one, though, because, 2012 is Whiplash.
2014 is the year before
2014.
this.
And it's just like, it's one of the best films of that decade. Yeah. Miles Teller is a huge part in it. But I always found it interesting that Chazelle, who's the director, Damien Chazelle, I think, he makes that, then he makes La La Land, and then he makes First Man, he's gone on to do other things, Babylon. And from La La Land onwards, it's all Ryan Gosling. And he's got that J.K. Simmons also always seems to have a role in these movies. But Miles Teller, the guy who seemed to be the avatar for Giselle, who's got a very similar persona to what Ryan Gosling has in La La Land, he's not there. So with the Teller reports of like him not being working with that director again, and the sort of Fantastic Four stuff, I always thought, was Miles Teller like a difficult person to work with too?
I wondered, like Miles, because the quote from Polygon was he had like I'm a better actor than being on this IP movie, like in so many words. I wonder if that's all on the back of being so great in Whiplash as well, like, and all the praise he was getting from being in Whiplash. Because like the reviews of that thing started coming out in 2013. I think I saw it in 2014.
Yes,
like, but like early reviews were late 2013. So I wonder if there's maybe a part of that. But yeah, maybe it's just like he's also difficult to work with. I haven't had anything since though. Like I didn't hear anything about Top Gun.
Well, I think he sort of fell off for a while. Maybe he had 5 years of growing up, and now in the last couple of years, he seems to be getting more of his old star persona back. But when you look at it on paper, you're like the breakout actor of the biggest indie hit of 2014, the director of one of the biggest indie style movies in 2012, working to.
Yeah,
it does make sense on paper, but then paper doesn't. What, scorecards don't have pictures, do they?
This is from Polygon. Before Fantastic Four, Trank woke up 6 a.m. on the dot. This is before the film's release. After the release,
brag.
Before Fantastic Four, Trank woke up at 6 a.m. on the dot. After the release, he found himself falling asleep by then, oozing out of bed around noon, and not knowing what to do with himself until he eventually crashed out again. Quote, I've been exposed to a permanent version of reality where I had no reason to live because there was nothing that I desired, he said. I didn't want to work I don't want to be a big filmmaker anymore. That's all I ever wanted. I didn't know what I was anymore. He had no interest in going back where he was before Fantastic Four either. Trank combated insomnia and, in therapy, coped with the feeling of wanting, quote, to fucking die, end quote. His breakthrough happened after 3 months of, quote, utter silence, when he began self-critiquing what he saw as a streak of arrogance and misplaced ambition in the form of lengthy journal entries. The exercise drew a line in the sand. That was then, this is now. Quote, when I realized that I could start over, that was the first moment that I suddenly felt something again. So yeah.
Well, it's good that he had a bit of self-reflection.
He had a bit of self-reflection after the Fantastic Four. So maybe something else good came out of this. So about its release, though. So The Hollywood Reporter reported that Fantastic Four was set to win the box office weekend of its release with $40 million or more in its opening weekend, which would be the lowest of any Fantastic Four movie. 2005's did 56.1, Rise of the Silver Surfer did 58.1. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. In a major blow for 20th Century Fox plan to secure the fate of a key franchise, controversial director Josh Trank's Fantastic Four opened to a dismal $26.2 million from nearly 4,000 theaters in North America after being rejected by critics and audiences alike.
Oh, no. On Black Adam, we spoke so much about how these kinds of movies, you want the fans on the opening weekend. It's for the fans, and you always get the big burst of the fans, and then the drop-off happens on the subsequent weeks. But yeah, those fans are going to be the ones who are following this closely online. Oh, we're not being served what we want because it's a dark reimagining of Fantastic Four.
The trailer is grim and horrible.
And the director publicly disowned it.
Yeah, I don't.
So
think
you don't get that audience showing up on the opening weekend.
That's one of the lowest openings of all time for a big-budget superhero studio movie, and in a twist that Hollywood didn't see coming, the $120 million tentpole movie lost the weekend crown to holdover Mission Impossible Rogue Nation in its second week that only fell 48% to $29.4 million.
Because that is a great film.
Overseas, where Hollywood tentpoles often make ground, the news was mostly grim as Fantastic Four launched to a tepid $34.1 million from 43 markets for a global bow of $60.3 million. Rogue Nation was easily the winner internationally as well, taking another $65.5 million as expanded to a total of 58 territories. Heading into the weekend, Fantastic Four was expected to clear at least $40 million, although many expected it to approach nearly $50 million. No one's sure what the film start means for the sequel, which has already been announced for June 2017.
Fantastic. They'd already announced the sequel.
Yeah.
I guess when you've announced it, you can't really backtrack because you're like, well, that will harm the box office more, maybe.
While we're disappointed, we remain committed to these characters and we have a lot to look forward to in our Marvel universe, said Fox domestic distribution chief Chris Aronson, declining to comment specifically on Fantastic Four 2.
That's a guy who gets the assignment. Go out there, say the bit, take the lashings publicly.
So what do you think the drop-off was in its second week?
What did you say? It was expected
expected to open between 40 and 50 million. It did 26.2 million.
26.2 million. Well, it'd be an interesting thing to find out because you don't have the fans maybe showing up for opening weekend. So there's not a big high to drop off from. But then I bet the word of mouth would have been abysmal, which gets people to go. So 26, so 50% would be 13 million. Usually a bad drop-off is 60, 65. Did it make 7 million in its next week? I'm going to say yes. Is it a 65% drop-off?
69. It
nice.
made $8 million in its second week.
That's so much worse than I thought it would be.
It made $8 million in its second week of release.
So by the second week, it was at $34 million. And even the week after the opening weekend, they were estimating, but it will probably clear 40, maybe 50.
Well, I mean, I thought it would open to 40, 50 million.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, the Hollywood Reporter expected it was going to lose Fox between $80 and $100 million. It was the second biggest flop of 2015. Do you want to have a guess what the other two big flops were? One of them I completely forgot was a film.
2015, Jupiter Ascending.
No,
is that
that's
around then? Is that a bit
2014.
later? What films came out? Are they superhero films?
Unfortunately not. One is Disney, the other one is Sony.
One's Sony. Is Disney Tomorrowland or something like that?
Tomorrowland was the biggest money loser for 2015.
Another film I really like, probably because I did the press tour for it and I got to meet Damon Lindelof. I really like Tomorrowland. I still think it's a fun romp.
I've forgotten that I've seen it.
I had a little badge. And what was a Sony movie? A big Sony movie in 2015.
It's close to my heart. It's a movie that I've got a lot of love for.
Is it a video game-based movie?
It is.
Is it Tomb Raider?
No, it's not Tomb Raider. But you are right.
Pixels.
It's Pixels. Yeah, Adam Sandler's Pixels. I love that movie because it's not a good movie, but I love it. And I love the ambition. And it might just be I got on really well with the film's writer when I interviewed him for the book.
This is
a nice guy.
This is the story of our 2015. We disproportionately like bad movies that came out this year because we got to talk to the people who made them.
So yeah, a sequel had been announced for July 14th, 2017. That got then bumped around a number of times, replaced by War for the Planet of the Apes, moved again because they didn't want it to go against The Last Jedi, which itself then got moved to December.
Delayed, like a Josh Trank meeting about Chronicle 2.
Simon Kinberg said, I'm really focused on the next one, but I haven't had time to decompress or unpack the experience of making the first movie. But, I'm going to be doing it really, really soon. He quoted here, I'm obviously disappointed. I was most disappointed that the fans didn't like it. I care more about them than I do anyone else, but I haven't done a full deep dive on it. Do I think it was unfairly treated? I don't know. He noted that all the news articles probably did not help the performance of that.
No kidding.
The sequel was then removed from the Fox schedule in October 2015, but Kinberg kept talking about doing a sequel to it, even though they were no longer making one. He's like, I would like to do another one. Do you know who else said they would like to do one? Matthew Vaughn said he would like to direct a sequel to the 2015 one as an apology for the first movie. In 2018, it was revealed that Tim Miller's original plans for Deadpool 2 was to reunite the 2015 Fantastic Four cast as a set of cameos.
That's a fantastic idea.
Sorry, what did you say?
Huh? Are we gonna do the thing? The Fantastic Four was bad, and Apocalypse was middling, and then the X-Men franchise just guffawed out with Dark Phoenix and New Mutants. But Fox had Deadpool by then.
Yeah.
A movie they also tried to stop happening from being made.
They did. And Miller left Deadpool 2 due to creative differences, which is why you don't get that cameo there. When Stan Lee passed away, Trank revealed on Twitter he actually received a letter from Stan asking if he was okay. And Trank said that he really felt he let him down over 2015's Fantastic Four.
That's nice. No Stan Lee cameo in the movie.
No, there isn't, is there?
I mean, that was more, it wasn't in every non-MCU movie, but it's always nice to see the guy.
So Fox had until 2022 to make another Fantastic Four movie to keep hold of the rights, but it doesn't matter because Disney bought them anyway, and they just got the rights back, which led to them releasing Fantastic Four First Steps, which they announced technically in 2019. It's at Comic-Con. Kevin Feige at the end of it is like, here's our big phase, whatever plans it is. And it was like, oh yeah, and we're also going to do Fantastic Four, but we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, because the Fox deal was like 2018 when Disney bought them, I think.
Yeah.
So they had access to them by that point.
So the last thing we're going to talk about here in the history section of this video is Josh Trank, they talk about this in the Polygon. He deleted his Instagram. He then reactivated his Instagram. He would delete his Twitter. He'd reactivate his Twitter. He could not stay away from social media and sort of stay away from the internet and like all the feedback and stuff. But in 2019, he kind of found a home for him on social media. He created a Letterboxd account.
Okay.
And one of the films he reviewed was Fantastic Four.
I remember the day this happened. Now you're talking about it. I feel like we were together and you've got to see this.
Here's the review. Fan Four Stick. Huh. Okay, first of all, I thought it would be great if I searched FF 2015 and the shit wasn't even on here. Low-key, I was kind of hoping it wasn't. But it was, and I'm here. Anyway, where to begin? The movie is all right. I was expecting it to be much worse than it is. I literally haven't seen it since like 2 weeks before it came out. Wow. And I was in a heavily fucking traumatized state of mind. Why? Save that for another time. Anyway, movie review. Great cast. Everyone in the movie is
Apart
a great...
from Kate Mara. God damn.
Everyone in the film is a great actor. And overall, there is a movie in there somewhere. And that cast deserves to be in that movie. Everyone who worked on Fan Four Stick clearly wanted to be making that movie. But ultimately... it wasn't. Did I make that movie they deserve to be in? To be honest, I can't tell. What I can tell you is there are two different movies in one movie competing to be that movie. Is there a hashtag release the Trank cut? Doesn't matter. I'm not Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder is a storied, iconic, legendary filmmaker who's been knocking out the fucking park since I was in high school. Me, then, I was 29 years old making my second film in a situation more complicated than anything a second-time filmmaker should have walked into. That said, I don't regret any of it. It's part of me. I just hope that Peyton Reed makes the next Fantastic Four movie and crushes it, and I get to have a cameo. Anyway, that's it. Fan Four Stick. He gave it 2 stars.
Generous. Well, that's quite a nice wrap up to Josh Trank. It happened. He had a crap time, as did everyone else involved making it seems. Yeah. But ultimately, you move on from these things. This too shall pass. Yeah, he was not mature enough as a director to be put into this position. It is such a big step up. You talk about that mid-budget movie, like going from doing a $12 million movie where, and Max Landis talked about this, they had all control. It was just the two of them, full control of a movie. Going from that to a $120 million tentpole movie based on the Fantastic Four that has a hard release date because we've got these marketing deals and we have to release it now, otherwise we lose the rights and that will be catastrophic for the studio. That is too big of anyone would have crumbled in that position. But he was not the right person going into it, which meant the crumbling all the more worse. Yeah, he didn't help himself.
No.
Same time, 20th Century Fox should have known better.
And it's a studio that always should have known better. One of the chapters I actually have in the book that I wrote, part of it is really built around how 20th Century Fox just all can't get out of their own way. They are the kings of studio interference. Rothman was like the king of interference, of just, oh yeah, you go ahead and make that movie. Oh no, wait, you've made a movie? Oh no, I need to bring it here. I'll change this movie. We now need to change it to this. They were always their own worst enemy. There's a reason why they don't exist anymore as their own separate studio, because they could not get out of their own way and make good movies, or let directors make movies. But I also think, sorry to cut you off there. Yeah. I also think Josh Trank had the wrong vision for this movie at this period of time.
I was just going to add, It's not just 20th Century Fox, though. We've just done the whole Warner Bros. Thing, which is an absolute mess, things going back and forth. The decisions being made at the sort of top C-suite corporate merger level that affect this, bit down here. Booyah. Sony, that mess as well. Yeah. It's sometimes it's not really the studio. You just need someone who's in control of that area. I think that's why the MCU for so long was so consistently good, because Kevin Feige was keeping that ship. I bet he was battling with Disney bosses and people all the time, but he was a strong leader.
I think what probably also helps Kevin Feige is that he had one very, I don't know this from a sort of personal or everything, but based on the way I see him as a film producer and the way that he produced the MCU, he had one clear goal in mind with every one of those movies. 4 quadrants. Mm-hmm. Does it hit this one? 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 Great. We're off to the races. And because he always makes a movie with 4 quadrants in mind, and that's safe. Yeah, that's not the most exciting way to make movies. But he's also the most successful at doing it. And there's a reason why the 4 quadrant system exists, because it means success, and it means box office returns, which means you make more money, which means you can make more movies, and you can give more there's that and the other, and you can make more 4 quadrant stuff. When you have a director comes in and be like, I don't want to do 4 quadrants, I want to do what my vision is, I want to do this. All of a sudden you get $26.1 million at the box office and a failing production.
Fantastic Four, more like trauma bonding 1 quadrant.
I don't think it's ever 1 quadrant. Honestly, I think you look at this movie, I don't know what quadrant it was trying to hit. I guess males 18 to 34.
Yeah, the people who like the grim interpretations of stuff they enjoyed as a kid.
It's too broad. Sorry, it's too small. It's too small of a target demographic to try and hit. And the MCU's success and why that did well and the DCU did not. And the DCEU obviously has got lots of studio problems, but it also was trying to appeal to a small subset of fans who wanted the dark, gritty tones. Whereas Marvel were like, no, let's get the families in. And it's what led to their success. I'm not saying that every movie should be, because I'm glad this movie exists, because I had a whale of a time watching this movie, because it just becomes a different movie at the 50-minute mark.
It's so fun.
One year later. Funny. Oh my God, it's hilarious. You said to me, because I was watching this next to you yesterday, and I paused it when the slate card comes up 1 year later, and I pointed to it because you'd already told me, and you said, you're going to be pausing it so much more in the back half of this movie.
Yeah.
And you were not wrong. Constantly pausing it. It's like Reed Richards just randomly shouts this. That's not Reed's not set. Miles Teller's not on set at the same time.
Yeah, that's a green screen. That's ADR. What is this montage all of a sudden that Mole Man is presenting to the Pentagon? Like right after 1 year later.
Oh yeah.
It's
look at the wig.
So you hadn't fully really seen the film before. I watched it as soon as it came out at the cinema, but of course never went back to it. So when I'm rewatching it for this, honestly, I'm 45 minutes in and I'm starting to panic. Because I'm starting to think, has the whole backstage shoot aspect of the film's production made me misremember the film as way worse than it is? Is this film actually just fine with a crazy behind-the-scenes story? What are Luke and I going to talk about on the play-by-play part of the show? And then 50 minutes in, 1 year later hits, and it just shits itself. Because we've had Suicide Squad, we've had Justice League, we've had Batman v Superman. These are films that are very clear from the outset, we're crap. And you know what? Halfway through and it goes, we're still crap. Whatever, doesn't impact you. But because you've had quite a nicely dressed person at a party for 50 minutes who's talking to you normally, you know, this guy's all right, you know, like just a normal bloke. Yeah. And then he shits himself. That's funnier.
And puts a wig on.
That's funnier because he was so normal in the first 50 minutes. And I had the best time. The best time with the green screens and the ADR and Victor Von Doom never being there and the corridors.
The corridor. Anytime another character walked around a corridor, I pissed myself laughing.
And just like when it totally gives up.
the end sequence. It's just when you still use all of our powers to work together. Your plan was, Ben, push him in the beam, and we won.
I'm one of the smartest men on the planet. You think you're pretty smart, don't you, Reed? Says Von Doom. Yeah, I'm smarter than you. Push.
It's clobbering time. Boff, into the beam you go.
Brilliant.
It is a film that has got a 50-minute long first act. It's actually got a Man of Steel in a way. A really, really long first act introducing these characters and their powers. And then it just goes straight into its third act. You could possibly make the argument Finding Reed is the second act of the movie. It is 12 minutes at most.
Yeah, and mostly montage and cut up bits of other scenes that they thought, yeah, if we put that there, that might work.
And then like it just goes into this long third act. It's not even that long. Third act scene, and it's just like the movie just ends. You're right. Like it's got not much of an ending to it. And then you get this weird post like coda to the movie where a landlord. Let's not talk about landlords too much on this one. It's showing him around and like, who are you as a character? I thought there would be more of you.
Yeah.
They're arriving. They're coming in.
Yeah, and we call this Central City. I'm like, what? It's a building.
I was there being like, is this a reference to something that I don't know? But like, yeah.
I looked it up online. I was like, what is Central City in Fantastic? Oh, it's where they launched the rocket.
Yes.
To get there.
Yeah.
But I know Central City is the
Flash. That's what I thought.
What is this, a weird... So confused.
Central City. This is a building, sir.
Yeah. What a magical film this is. You might even say it's
trauma bonding.
Some kind of Suicide Squad.
It's some kind of Black Adam. Anyway, we are going to be doing a full scene-by-scene breakdown of Fantastic Four over at patreon.com/cutscene. Click the link in the video description down below right now to join us on this very wild movie.
Come on, wild?
Okay, it's wildly inconsistent.
Fantastic.
We will have a fantastic time.
Wait, what did you just say? That again.
Is that Cara Toyota? Over at patreon.com/cutscene. Head over there right now. But here is a clip from last month's episode where we dived into Black Adam.
Do you like Ant-Man? Don't worry, there's one of them.
Yeah.
Do you like Doctor Strange? Don't worry, there's one of them.
Do you like Superman? Don't worry, we've got two of them.
Do you like the Falcon from Captain America? He's here too, kind of.
Yeah. Hey, did you like Terminator 2 back in the day?
Yes. Oh my god, I got such Terminator 2 vibes. Because there's a fucking annoying kid.